Shit. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome. Welcome to our Sabbath bill, of course. We have so many things going on. I almost forgot the name of what we're doing. But I am Chief Yuya. For those of you who do not know, I want to welcome you. Of course, thank you for one. Abba Derek, I see it. Thank you so much for letting me know. I was looking to the right for it. Um, but yeah, I just want to welcome everyone. We know every sixth day, right? We went over our days already, so we should have some information about days. But every sixth day, we get together and we take the opportunity to sort of build and explore and kick different gems into the arena, into the pool, and see what it is that we come up with. And it provides an opportunity, as a community, to really hold each other accountable for our study. If you find that every time you're getting together, you're just listening, then you get an opportunity to question yourself, like, man, am I actually pulling in any new information that's valuable and that has some merit within the community, or am I just watching and listening things, as things go by? So it's a great opportunity to sort of hold ourselves accountable to the work and the intellectual industry that we say that we're, a part of, this great agenda and executive order of learning and growing the mind and reclaiming the mind and mastering the mind, which is what all of this is about at the end of the day. It kind of brings me to some of the things that, and I'm going to cover this a little bit tomorrow when I do the Sabbath Insight, but it brings me to some of the things that I have been noticing in the past few months, just revolving around the changing order of the world. Like, I like to look at, like I always say, they always tell you once, so there's like, we had a great time this last Yom Revi, or what you may call Wednesday. We watched the movie They Live. When I say we, I'm talking about the Anu community. So some of us got together and we watched the movie. We explored some concepts, but it's a movie I've spoken about years ago. It came out in 1988, so the movie's 36 years old. But They Live is a movie by John Carpenter, which really just explores the sort of social subliminal programming that many of us are exposed to, and the position that the elite in the society serve as it pertains to mind control, as it pertains to the purposes of wealth. And, it had me thinking about, like, just the origins of certain realities, like, or the origins of certain families and their work. And I was thinking about the Rothschild family or the Red Shield family. I did a breakdown. I think when I did, it might have been uh, the Boule Secret Society. It might have been that, but I do remember explaining a little bit about the origins of the Rothschild family and the fact that it was actually the Red Shield was the original name that they took on, and they had a shield that had a hexagram, which is where you now get many people say that, oh, that's the Star of David. It has nothing at all whatsoever to do with David, nothing at all. It was a symbol that was taken on by a family who currently owns like 81% of Israel. So just to give you an idea of their influence, but when you see Rothschild, it's Red Shield, and if you know the names and the words, then you can follow it back to what's really happening. But oh, it was the Boule breakdown. Okay, I see it. Give thanks. Yeah, yeah. Okay. But yeah, I was just thinking about that. It's like you think about the origins and the rhymes and the reasons, and you know, like there's orders that come around, and it's important to understand that history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. History rhymes with itself. And sometimes through our lazy sort of durational thinking, we just wait for stuff to come back around, but it doesn't always happen like that. But when you look at like the Rothschilds and you look at the mission, you have Meyer, his middle name was Elhanan Rothschild. And he was born like in 1577, something like that. And he had five sons, and he established he took each of his sons and he planted them in different places, like, around Europe. And he's basically, your rule here, your rule here, your rule here, your rule here. And it's just kind of interesting. And he had a rule, which was also, this was a rule that was taken on by the DuPont family as well. And they were only allowed to marry their second cousins. They were not allowed to marry his 5 sons. They were not allowed to marry outside of their second cousin. And that way it kept the wealth of the family within the family. And like, if someone died, you think about now, like, a lot of times, if a family member of yours dies, that sometimes there's a distribution, especially if you have a large corporation, and that distribution means that now there has to be taxes paid on that. Whereas when you keep all of the money in the family, when someone dies, there's nothing paid. There's no taxes or anything. The family just continues on as it was. So it was a very ingenious, not original, I mean, because we did that in ancient Kemet, but, and even in ancient Hebrew structure, second cousins, third cousins, we knew how to keep wealth inside of the family, but, just made me think about like some of the movies coming out, some of the things that are happening when we're watching They Live. And I'm like, and I guess because as we were watching it, some of the folks in the room were like, wow, this movie, they were talking about this that long ago. The movie came out in 1988. And I'm like, this is agenda that's even older than that, but, I guess because I saw the movie, years ago, like when it came out, sometimes you forget how much time passes. I'm like, yeah, that was a long time ago. Roddy Piper was in it. Keith David was in it, and they were fighting in the movie. They have that epic fight scene. The fight scene's like 5 minutes long, and you realize, man, these are old men now, So, they sitting there duking it out and flipping each other over and doing DDTs and stuff. But, yeah, just the origins of certain realities, man. Sometimes we don't realize, man, even when we speak about like the Illuminati, and what that order means or what that ideal means, coming originally from the original term was the Bavarian Illuminati, And their original term that they wanted to use was the Perfectibilis. The Perfectibilis, Prectibilis, and that was the original term that was used for what as the Illuminati, or the illuminated ones, who had this idea that they were carrying a certain level of wisdom throughout society that other people didn't have it. And within that you have like the Freemasons and all of their different lodges, and there's like over 150,000 lodges, and they come under the Grand Order of Scotland, they come under the Grand Order of Ireland, but these are the sort of the parent lodges. You have the United Grand Lodge of London, England, for instance. But again, as we're watching the movie They Live, and everyone's like, wow, this is so long ago. I'm like, man, Maya Rothschild was born in 1577. I mean, of course, we have the other incarnations of what you might call the Illuminated Order in 1776 and things like that. But, the reality is that this is a very, very old sort of initiative. You have to go back to like the Merovingians. The Merovingians, they are the people who you won't find that name today. Like, what's kind of interesting about some of these bloodlines is, like it's sort of like when you go into Hollywood, how people change their names. Silverstein becomes Silver, and Goldstein becomes Matthew Gold, and stuff like that. And sort of people, I think even Keith David, I think his last name is Johnson or something, but or Carolyn Johnson becomes Whoopi Goldberg, things like that. Steve Lynn Morris becomes Stevie Wonder, but so we're just sort of like used to people sort of changing their names. The term was Perfectibilis. I see your question in the chat. Perfectibilis. That was the original name of the Bavarian Illuminati. But, you think about how there's this, we're sort of just used to that. Like, oh, I changed my name. Oh, this had a better ring. That has a better ring. And sometimes we don't realize that that's used to hide bloodline. So you might wonder, like, why don't I ever see the name Merovingian anymore? And they were such a big family at one point. Even if you learn about the Borgia dynasty, if you will, you know, the fallacious popes like Cesare Borgia, who posed for the picture to be of Jesus Christ and stuff like that. Um, you see that they had relations with the Merovingians, and the Merovingians, they were bankers, you know, back in the days. But the whole significance of their bloodline is that they believed that they were of the bloodline of King David. So, you know, some people had that kind of messed up. They would say, oh, they believe they were the bloodline of Christ. And that wasn't it. They believed they were from the bloodline of David. But the Merovingians eventually became the Collins. So they changed their name. So you might see certain Collins today and not realize that these are actually bloodlines of ancient Merovingians. And the DuPonts, you know, they had like a similar sort of format as the Rothschild, you know, where they said, okay, you'll only marry a second cousin. If there's any deal that needs to be made, it has to, like any major deal, like he had these 5 sons, Meyer Rothschild. And like, he was like, yo, any deal that gets made, one of you has to be present for it. So we don't have anyone with their hand in our family business. And even if you die, everything is in the family. So it was very tribal, you know, if you think about it. But again, these are old families, you know, like I said, the Collins, you have the Bundy family. The Bundy family was a family that was, or is, deeply entrenched in the political scene. And what's deep about the Bundy family, very old family, most people, when they hear Bundy, they think of Ted Bundy, you know. And if you understand, there was a movie, it was an old movie, it was from a book many years ago called The Manchurian Candidate. And that's a really good book or movie. You can even watch the movie. The movie tells you everything you need to know, you know. And there were 2 of them. There was one back in the days in black and white, and then there was one that came out some years ago with Denzel Washington and I can't remember the other guy's name. He played and he did the remake of Alfie, which was a good movie too. But that got nothing to do with what we're talking about. But yeah, man, understand what that Manchurian Candidate is. And then you'll understand, if you understand the Manchurian Candidate, or just do like a quick search on what is that Manchurian Candidate. And then look up Ted Bundy, if you've never heard of who Ted Bundy is. And you'll realize that, like, yeah, even though he was a psychopathic killer, he was more of a victim than he was an actual predator, believe it or not. And sometimes that's the case with some of these people we see who commit these horrific crimes. And we're like, man, what would drive them to do that? And, you know, how could someone be so cold to want to do something like that? And then if you understand the Manchurian Candidate and that whole science, it'll make sense to you. But, you know, the Bundy family is a bit, when you talk about bloodlines, you know, and people who are actively making things happen, like even before 1988, you know, referencing the movie. But like I said, the Bundys, the Collins, the Delanos. The Delano is a very big family, and the Delanos are actually intertwined with the Roosevelt family. You may remember we had a president years ago, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, right? But Delano is actually a last name. That's an old, I don't want to say shifty, but a old active, you know, family bloodline. Then you had the Crops is another one. You know, who's a very deep family into a lot of these societies and politics is the McDonald family. And it's the same McDonald's, the hamburgers, right? But I know when you think of McDonald's, you think that's Ray Kroc. Ray Kroc came in and basically stole the McDonald's thing. So we're told by the story. But the McDonald family has always been a deep Illuminist and Freemason family, you know. So it's just interesting, you know. And there's a bunch. I mean, I could run down like 5 million of them to you, you know. I mean, heck, even the Clintons, you know. Obviously, many of you know about the Kennedys, you know, that family. But it's just interesting when you kind of see, like, I like to pay attention to the timeline of Bloodlines. I like to see when they change their names, because the thing is, the agendas don't change, but they'll change names, change locations, things like that. It's sort of similar to what happened with the Knights Templar, and I did a breakdown on that too. Don't remember the name of the segment. There's so many now. It's like over like 1,500 segments. So I always remember what I talk about, but I don't always remember the titles, because most of the time the titles, like, just come up with something at the last minute, but the concepts themselves, I do remember. Oh, I spoke about this, spoke about that. But the titles and the thumbnails, I don't really remember. But yeah, they were originally the Crusaders. So when you read about the Crusaders and the stuff that they did, and like all the dirt they did, and their original job, quote unquote, was to protect pilgrims, because they had these pilgrims, these people who wanted to go on a spiritual journey, within the Catholic Church, and go and to the holy city and pray and things like that. So they had these people, these knights, essentially, who would protect them on the road. And one of the benefits of being a knight was that you didn't have to pay taxes. So it was a tax-free profession. But one of the things is you could not get married. You could not be married. You could not have children. You had to basically take vows of celibacy. And you got to understand, because once you get married, you have children, when you die, that your inheritance now goes to a family and not back to the church. So, but the Crusaders eventually became the Knights of Christ, and that eventually became the Knights Templar, and then that takes you into a lot of secret society stuff. When the Knights Templar, some of them then later become the Skull and Bones. You have the Jason organization, right? And they're dealing with like the Holy Grail. These come out of the Knights Templar, and that's where you get the country Portugal. Portugal was originally the port of the Grail, and the port of the Grail eventually became Portugal. So it's just kind of interesting. Sometimes we sitting back and not realizing that there are some very old and extended sort of agendas that are going on within the world and within society. And, like, you think about the Skull and Bones, like, they own an island in upstate New York, their island, but I think it's called St. Lawrence Island. You can look it up. It's a real place, St. Lawrence Island. And I think they renamed it, or it's in St. Lawrence, and the name of the island is called Deer Island. But yeah, so it's, a lot of these organizations are still alive, they're still active, they're still doing what they do. Even George Bush, I remember when I read his autobiography. Never think these people are as dumb as they pretend to be. So you be like, George Bush, that's the dumb one. They're not dumb. None of them are dumb. Trust me. And it takes a lot of intelligence to play dumb. It takes a lot of intelligence and self-restraint and control to play a character, to play dumb. It takes a lot. You think about what if you stripped Dave Chappelle, Cat Williams, and Orlando Jones. Is that his last name? Orlando, the boy who was a child actor. What if you stripped them of their comedy? What if you took their comedy away? And just now, everything they said now just became serious, monologue, or serious commentary with no comedy. They'd be in trouble. I don't think they would live very long. They wouldn't live very long. Orlando Brown, give thanks, Raheem. Right. Orlando Brown, Cat Williams. That's just a few, right? Orlando Brown's, Cat Williams. And then we could go back to like your Eddie Murphys, not Eddie Murphy, excuse me, your Richard Pryors, George Carlins, so forth and so on, But if you actually strip them of their comedy, it will be a totally different experience. But I remember reading in George Bush's book, where he wrote about, I think his senior year, that he joined the Skull and Bones Society. But because it's George Bush, you would be like, it don't mean nothing. It's George Bush. He's a dummy, you know. But he's telling you, see, right now, because we've been so desensitized to truth and into what the reality is, no one has to hide anything anymore. Everything is put right in your face. There's no hiding, you know. And that's kind of what I was digging on when I was thinking about some of the movies. There's a couple movies I would urge you all to check out that came out recently. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That was interesting. It wasn't really a good movie, but the message was there. The movie itself was but I'm a Planet of the Apes person. Like, that's my thing. You know, all of them. I've seen all of them. I have them all on different formats. But this one was interesting because the apes themselves were like, pretty much they acted like Romans. They were dressed like Romans and acted like Romans. That means something. But that was put out. Also, there's a company called A24. Any movie that comes out by A24, that film group, you should always check out. They're not liked very much within the film industry. They're what's called disruptors, and they came out with a movie called Civil War. That'll be pretty good for you to check out. Civil War, and it follows it's kind of a voyeuristic sort of experience, and it follows these journalists, you know, as they go through documenting, you know, civil war within America, you know, which is, you know, an important, like I said, they always tell you once what's going on. You know, there's also a movie called ISS that came out that's pretty good. That deals with, like, they were these Russian and American astronauts in outer space, and they're looking down on the Earth, and they realize that the Earth is at war. And part of their general orders is like, if that happens, like, take over the station. They each were given that order. Even though you would think, like, if I'm up in outer space and I look down, the Earth is at war. I don't care what country you're from. We best friends now. We working it. What y'all got over there? I want to see what kind of snacks y'all got. I'm sure what kind of snacks we got. I'm gonna be eating some Russian food. You're going to be eating some soul food, you know. But that there's a mentality even in that, you know. So there's a couple films I would say, but they're all like signs of the time. Oh, and then I think there was one called 10. This is a pretty good one, but I pay attention to when things come out, because when things come out means something, you know, when things come out. Like, even right now, you're not supposed to know that we are in World War III right now. So, like, when you're stuck behind the times, you'll still be saying, like, man, when a new world order happens, and not realizing, like, we're about to open up the third seal. When you read Revelations, the third seal is what? Famine. And what does famine come from? War. Look at the food prices right now. Like, just people every other day getting caught stealing or just running out of Target, grabbing stuff and whatnot, you know, grabbing food and whatnot, because we are now coming into the times of famine. That's one of the seals in the book of Revelations, you know, that happens before the war. Where we are at, this is World War III, you know. So, yeah, man, that's some of the stuff I was thinking about. What's happening, Zach?
Peace to the chief. How
Peace
you
to
living?
I'm living kind of I'm living between wisdom and slyness, you know,
Okay.
which is
Wisdom
it's a
and
real slippery
slyness.
place. Yeah, slyness. You deal with me subtly, I deal with you subtly. You know, sometimes you gotta. It's like in Machiavelli wrote, you gotta, you know, fight iron with iron. You know, you don't fight iron with copper, you get all your stuff bent up. You know, so
That makes
this
me
is the season for that. Mm-hmm.
that makes me think of that saying, "Don't be so heavenly minded that you know earthly good." So
Right,
yeah,
because you got to know
right.
what the earth is doing.
So I'm gonna
Or
make
here's one, when Yahweh Shai said, "Render unto Yah what is Yah, and render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's." So it's like they were like, "Yo, should we pay our taxes?" It's like, man, you better know how to navigate down here too. You here, so you got to know how to navigate this place too. But you also got to know how to navigate heaven at the same time. So sometimes, you know, you got to go get a little dirty.
man. You walked me right into this joint. So because
Okay.
I was thinking of this Jeremiah 8, 4, and I think it's hold up. Let me make it up. but he's talking about like, do not like the cranes know the direction they're supposed to go in, and they was talking about returning from repenting, and cats don't know where to look. But then it was like, but these cats, like it's like the turtle knows where to go, the crane knows where to go, but these fools, they don't know where to go, and it was just making me think of, even when you were talking earlier of people, they join this society, I'm gonna join this group, I'm gonna join this family. Like I know where to go because I'm gonna know, you know, wherever my L is. But yet I got a group of people that to this day are still not turning to where their L is. I'm gonna still turn to the world, or I'm gonna still turn and move in directions that have nothing to do with me, and wondering why I'm still at the tail and not at the head. And I'm just like, is it that uncommon? Like you said, now you can just put things right in front of people. And now it's to the point where it's like, oh yeah, you know, that's a conspiracy. It's just, you know, I can use this word conspiracy just to say, disclaim whatever you say now. That's all, you know, there's a lot of conspiracy theorists, and they always digging up all of these different things. But still not turning, okay, but are you going to get on the path? Like, there's a path for you, like these other people, like you saying that if I'm going to marry my second cousin, I'm assuming that somebody is thinking, if I come back, I want to come back through this line so I still have access to these resources, so that it's still in this line. Now, I ain't saying that extreme, but like at some point, somebody would say that I'm in this group, I'm in this family, and this is what we do and this is what we don't do. But somehow, and I was even thinking, even from last round when we was talking, and I was started thinking about when my chip started to glitch sometime, and I started to think about even, you know, I used to like fear the Lord, and some of it is, if I go away from this, I'm gonna be on my own. Like I'm not gonna have any help. I won't have any access to help. So then it's like you trade, but if you trade that one in, then you trade it for the ancestors, and then you're saying all the ancestors are gonna help. And then he'd be like, oh, whoa. If I trade that in, then I don't want to be out here on my own, because then now if I'm looking at it from the sense, if I'm saying that I'm the one, then who in essence will catch me if I fall, right? Or if, you know what would be home base if I'm not looking at one of these and saying that, yeah, this is what I depend on, I rely on. And I think that's where my chip started to glitch. And then I'm thinking like, well, maybe that could be a hang up for many people. And I know I started in one direction. I'm ending in a different
No,
direction.
I'm tracking. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Okay. And I'm just wondering if that is some of the challenge of having one get on the path, because it's almost in a sense that if I'm on the path, I'm going to have to look after myself. And looking after myself means that I can't use some of these scriptures, or I might maybe use like, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, fear no evil, because thou art with me. Well, then who would be with me then if I'm saying I got it, right? Then it's like, well, you on your own. Like, how do you mentally fix yourself to say that, you know, I guess there's really no affirmation or nothing that you start telling yourself that somebody is with you to help you, to protect you, which would prevent people from, I'm assuming. I might be.
Yeah. No, I don't think you're reaching, man. I think, like you said, there's a mental checking that has to start first. It's important to understand that, like, even just addressing the first thing you said, like, we're under intense social programming, you know, so you can expose people to a lot of different things, but you have to also realize that there are some very advanced and complicated algorithms that people are living inside of daily, that they were born inside of. You know, there's a Hegelian dialectic that we're always exposed to in the form of war. So we're constantly put in the place where we feel like we can't decide our own destinies, because there's one crisis created after another. And then there's always a savior coming in of that crisis. So we're like, whew, whew, yeah, I'm gonna let y'all handle it. I'll just keep letting the government handle it because I don't know how I would have dealt with that. Yeah, of course, because you didn't manufacture it. So of course you don't know how to deal with it. So once you realize that that is a scheme that's constantly going on, and you understand that there are secret societies that have certain mandates, and these mandates are hundreds of years old, where they said, this is what we're going to do. By 2050, we want people starved out. Part of the Papers of Zion talked about establishing pornography as an art form. So you start seeing art always has these naked people running around, or when women say, I'm going to be liberated, that just means they're going to be promiscuous, and somehow promiscuity is supposed to liberate them, but actually it destroys them, right? But it's almost like it's an art form to itself, that I'm naked, or I'm on IG taking half naked pictures or whatever. It's art, stupid. Stop sexualizing me, and people may not realize that this is a part of an agenda. So I think that's the first thing we sort of have to step back sometimes and look at the larger context, because we're programmed not to look at the larger not to see, when you look at your dollar bill, you have an eye overlooking society, and you're taught you're never going to be that eye that could see everything. We'll watch it for you. Heck, we got satellites in the sky. We got this. We'll keep an eye on everything for you. So I think the first thing, even the legalization of drugs was a part of, early agenda of Illuminati. All these things were spoken about, So I think that's the first thing. We have to attack the machine systematically, as opposed to just the person and saying, well, hey man, why are you not getting this? Why are you not getting that? Why are you not getting that? But when you start doing things that disrupt the signal, like in the movie They Live, then you can have a conversation. This is one of the reasons why we always do the Anu retreats in the woods, because that disrupts the signal. Half the time we're in places we can't even get a phone signal, like where we were last time. I think only 2 of us had a signal, so it starts to disrupt. Now we can talk. Now we can relax. Now everybody's sleeping peacefully, like oversleeping. Nobody, no one's getting up super early, because now you're at peace. So I think that's one thing to sort of consider, and to sort of be, empathetic about, like, yeah, man, the programming is real. That's one thing. And I would say also, just like sort of kind of just how can I say it? Like, sort of kind of looking at when you're wondering, like, why people are not waking up, like the movie spoke about, like, the abolishment of certain orders, when he was like, man, it's all the same thing. There's no nations, there's no borders, there's no this. So what angle are you still coming at when you're trying to speak to people? Are you coming from a marginalized space where it's like, it's us and it's them? Because that's being programmed out of people's minds. So that goes to the second part of what you were talking about, where it was like, everybody sort of knows what to do, when you're functioning within a certain paradigm. But that's over, because, again, you've been programmed away from your natural self. So you don't even know how to react to truth anymore. I think I kind of said that the other night during the movie night, when I was commenting on the long fight scene between Keith David and Roddy Piper, and Ornata and Frank, the 2 characters in the movie. And that's how long it takes sometimes to get people to see the truth. And sometimes that's our trap. We come into a reality. The very first thing we do is we want to wake our mama up. We want to wake our sister up. We want to wake our brother up. We want to go to all the people who we're closest with and say, look what I found. Look, we can be free. Let's go get free. And we don't realize that everyone responds to the programming in a different kind of way. And are you really ready to fight? Like those 2 dudes were fighting to the death. Are you really ready to fight at that level just to wake up one person? And they both ended up dying in the end anyway. I mean, it's not a spoiler. The movie's 36 years old. So, but when you think about things like that, so I think it's difficult to sort of just go head first like a samurai. Consider, like what you said, when people say, oh, that's just conspiracy theories. Well, think about who came up with the term conspiracy theory. Because if you're doing something, if I'm sitting here, if you and I are sitting somewhere, we're on the bus or on the train, and you pull out a knife and you start sharpening that knife in front of me, and you look at me and you go like this, I'm not going to say, yeah, I have a conspiracy theory that this guy is going to stab me at the next stop. It's not a theory. I'm literally watching him conspire against me. But someone told me to call it a theory instead of just saying there's a conspiracy, period. Someone is conspiring. You can go to jail for conspiracy. People get life in jail for conspiracy to commit murder. You know, you go and you hire a hitman, but the hitman doesn't do the job and goes and tells on you. You go to jail for the rest of your life for conspiring to commit murder. You know, not a theory. So I think sometimes, again, functioning within the matrix, we don't realize just how much, how entrenched we are down to our very language that we attempt to use to get free. And the concept of like, well, who's going to cover me? Who, again, Big Brother. We've been programmed with the concept of Big Brother. Big Brother take care of you. Big Brother got you. Like, again, in the movie They Live, when he's telling the story of his father, he was like, yeah, my daddy took me down to the river, and my daddy, you know, he introduced me to Jesus. Then my daddy got real mean. And that was symbology. He's talking about the government. You know, our first orientation into the programming is church. And then after we figure out, man, this is some nonsense, we start paying taxes. So then now we rely on, so we're either relying on the church or relying on the government, but the government is the mean daddy, whereas the church is the loving daddy. You know, and then after we get our love, when we get deep in program, it's like any abusive relationship. You know, oh, he was so nice in the beginning, he was so loving in the beginning, then he just changed. You know, that's when now it's the government. You're getting snatched out of your car and it's being searched, and you know, let me see your ID and all that kind of. And if you don't pay your tax, we can put you in jail. You know, things like that. So we're kind of being programmed at all times to depend on this very abusive system, and the work that we may need to establish something outside of that requires an intelligence that some ain't ready for. Like, how many people even are ready for the changing world? You know, when we talk about the changing world, the new world order, that's happened a bunch of times already. You know, so what changes a world order? What changes a world order is the standard of monetary unit, right? So that's happened before. There was a time that the British pound was the world standard. And then the United States started to become more of a superpower. So it was transferred over to the US dollar, right? But then the US dollar was taken off of this really, when the New World Order started, was when it was taken off of the silver. The silver was taken out. And then in 1933, they outlawed what they called the hoarding of gold. And they closed down the banks for 7 days. And so no one could go get their gold, right? Now, that sounds crazy to think about it. Like, you close up, like my money, my gold, I put it in a box somewhere in the bank. The government says, you can't have too much gold anymore. We're going to take it. So I said, nah, I'm going to go get that's my granddaddy gave me that gold. My granddaddy blood on it. Right. So I go to get my property, and the bank is closed. No, you can't come in here. It's closed. You know, then it opens up 7 days later, and it's like, that gold, go on, buddy. But here we got this paper that we call legal tender or fiat currency. We got this paper. Where is my gold? No, take the paper. And the paper says that you had that much. You had it. You had that much gold at one point, right? That's New World Order activity. So we're in the midst. There was a video that a guy by the name of Ray Diallo did. I urge you all to watch it. It came out probably about two years ago, around it, 2.5 years ago. And the name of the video, I think, is The Changing World Order, something like that, or Preparing for the Changing World Order. And if you guys don't know who Ray Diallo is, he's the CEO of like one of the largest hedge funds in the world. You know, so this is a big money guy, and he spoke about what's coming economically, right? I always tell you once, right? These are like things that people need to understand, like, yeah, the changing world order happens when money changes over from one standard to another, right? So right now the US dollar is in the dumps. So it's, and there are other, so what happens is that, just long short of it, there'll be a country that's on the rise, right? And then what happens is that over time that country gets very comfortable, and people lose their grind, we'll say. They lose their desire to earn as much. And then what happens, the country begins to borrow more. The people borrow more. So now the rise, it levels out. And then while they're getting lazy and borrowing from other countries, because we have so much money, we have opulence now. We can borrow and just pay back like we do with credit cards. Oh, I got a steady income. I'm good. I can get that credit card. I can finance that car. I can get that $400,000 mortgage. I'm good because I got steady income coming in. So now when you got all this debt happening, now your value starts to decline. So then other countries who are still on the grind, they'll rise up. And eventually that country will become the standard, right? Now, and then what happens is that when that transfer happens, it usually takes about 15 to 20 years. There's a transition period for about 20 years where we're transitioning over to the value of this new money. That's a new world order, right? That's a new world order. It's based on monetary, so that's a simple thing, right? To understand and to learn about, when, like, in response to your question, like, people are afraid to go out on and on because people, they don't have the education, they don't have the knowledge to know, like, there are regular, I don't want to say regular humans because some of these people are Nephilim, but there are beings who are no more intelligent than you or have the intellectual capacity as you, who are controlling and running and dictating only because they have a mandate that they've decided to stick to. And if you had a mandate that you decided to stick to, you would do great things too. If you said, hey, I'm never going to depend on the system, my children are not going to depend on the system, there would be language that you would use at the dinner table that would automatically instill things into your children where they would think a certain way, where they wouldn't get caught up in the same way that maybe we did or our parents did or other people did. But it's only if you establish that mandate and stick to it,
So it's fair when Neely Fuller says everybody is a victim. What he says, racism, white supremacy, but everybody is a victim of this quote unquote, what we can say, new world order, that they are in, I guess, being programmed to think a certain way in order to feed that system.
I wouldn't say they're victims of it. I would say that there's a way that the world works. There's a way that economy works. And if you choose not to understand it, then you become a victim to your own ignorance. Like, yes, I do understand that that racism, white supremacy does exist. I'm not personally a victim, of racism, white supremacy. And the reason being is because I'm not a current victim, right? Do I have the scars and the trauma and the PTSD that comes with racism, right? Yes, absolutely. I do. However, I don't ask the system of anything. The only time you experience that racism is when you ask for something. When I need something of you, now you have the power to say yes or no. You have the power to deny me or to approve me based on how you perceive me or based on how I behave or based on how invested you see I am in the system. Mm-hmm. I start showing you paperwork and look, I got my degree here and I got a letter of recommendation from here. Now you'll treat me better, right? So that's victimization. That's me being victimized in that moment, but I'm choosing it. I'm choosing self-re-enslavement. So I would say that there's a reality to how Satan's system works. And you can choose to be a part of Satan's system or not. Because ultimately, that's what it all leads to. It all leads to that. So you can choose to be a part of that or not. Like I always say, the satanic thought always mirrors what the divine or supreme thought is. So if you read even in scripture, there's so much focus on bloodline. This one begat that one. That one begat that one. That one begat that one. It's like the movie Dune. You understand that Yahushua was like the Kwisatz Haderach. Like they're creating this perfect Messiah. Well, Satan does the same thing and says, oh, you're going to create a line of purity. Well, I'm going to create a corrupted line. So now I have these 13 families on the planet Earth that basically run everything in society. You know, this 13 family, right? There's 13 families whether again, like I said, the DuPonts, the McDonald's, the Merovingians, you know, well, they're not Merovingians anymore, the Collins, you know, the Kennedys, the Roosevelts, the Delanos, going on and on and on and on, the Rothschilds, you know, the Rockefellers, you could just go on, right? So once I see that and I see, well, that is a system, then I have to look at, if I'm intelligent, let me look at the fruits and the products of that system. Okay, well, one of the products of that system is the public school system. I won't be in the public school system. I won't put my children in the public school system because it's a product of the initiatives of that corrupted bloodline. So that's what I would say. That's just one example, obviously. I wouldn't say that we're all victims of it, man. I would say that we can be victims of our ignorance, and ignorance is the root cause for every problem on the planet. Every problem on the planet is solved with knowledge, and every problem on the planet is created through ignorance. You know.
But if somebody, I remember one of your old segments. It wasn't old. It was maybe 2 months ago when you was talking about, you know, how everybody was. One of the scenarios you gave was somebody being like a group of people being raised by next to a toxic plant, right? So if you're next to a toxic plant, then your thoughts are going to be toxic,
right?
So how, I guess, you know, like if somebody, and it almost seems like everything just goes hand in hand, that if I can keep somebody, like you mentioned, the food prices are high, and then you look at the housing, and then the housing is high, and somebody looking at their children, and they're like, well, I have to at least sustain, you know, my children and make sure they eat and all of that. So I'm going to put them in public school because at least that provides me 7 to 8 hours that, you know, I can get a break so that I can at least provide and make sure that there's a roof over their head, that there's this. So it's almost like you danged if you do and you danged if you don't.
Yeah, but that's because you're following someone's format and standard of what living is. You could buy a piece of land for nothing in certain places like Arkansas, New Mexico, where they give you the land. And you can build a cabin, a 500 square foot cabin for $3,000 or less. You could go to a place where they have really strong trees and you could build a tree house, and you and your family could go live in a cabin or a tree house. But that would be unacceptable because that's like, I'm not going to put my family in a shack. We got to have AC and we got to have this and because someone told you that's the standard. Someone told you that's how, you know, so you're trading one for the other. It's very similar to, again, the movie when we're watching, when the girl was like, don't hurt me and I'll do anything you say whenever you say. That's how we are with this place. As long as I feel like I'm safe, I will completely render myself to the beast system. That's the whole science of it. You see? So we give up our sovereignty for safety, or what we perceive to be as safety. Oh, I got to feed my family. Grow some food, get some goats, you know, get some animals that you like to eat or that you like the milk of, you know, and grow some food and live in a treehouse. Oh, my family can't live in that. Well, how big is your family? How many children did you need? How many children did you have, and why? Why did you even have children yet? Why do you even have a wife? Is she a helpmate? Did you go and get yourself 2 acres of land or an acre of land and said, I'm going to start to farm it and work it? And then you got a woman who said, I'm going to help you do this. Help meet. Or did you follow society structure and went to the Bears, knocked on their door and said, hey, can I get a diamond? Can I get one of them blood diamonds? I heard y'all having a clearance sale on blood diamonds. You know, then you got down on one knee and said, will you please marry? You know, all this stupidness that has nothing at all to do with our actual culture. Just I'm saying, like, we've been desensitized from the truth for so long, like since we were children, right? Like I grew up in hip hop. All of y'all grew up in hip hop. We all grew up in cartoons and stuff like that. But I used to listen to rock a lot. I still listen to rock, but a lot when I was younger. One of the very common symbols was this. When rock stars would take pictures, like that was the thing, you know. And then sometimes they'd have their tongue out and they make a symbol like this is devil's horns. And you look at it, it's like that's just what they do, right? You know, rappers would do this. Same thing. It's this is not a holy symbol, this peace thing. You know what I'm saying? Like these are all satanic symbols. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes they just give you the middle finger. Like, why are you giving me the middle finger? I just bought your seat. Like, I just paid for your show, and you have drunk giving me the middle finger. You know what I'm saying? But we become desensitized to these sort of symbols from very young, from when we're children. And this, what that does is that establishes satanic philosophy within our heads. So now when we encounter it later, we don't have the same sort of vitriolic or sort of knee-jerk reaction to it, because that philosophy has already been secreted into our minds. You know, so I would say, like, even depending on the beast system or whatever, it becomes sort of like second nature based on the programming that we've gone through, because we haven't redefined what safety is. We haven't redefined what a home is. You know, we haven't redefined what food is. You know, we're paying high prices for food that is killing us. You know, bottom line, for food that's killing us, we're paying the highest prices for dangerous food. You know, then we live in these homes that are leaking chemicals. We're walking around, oh, beautiful hardwood floors that are leaking cancerous fumes every day. You know, vinyl windows that are leaking cancerous fumes every day. We won't even get into the paint, right? So, and then you're living inside of a box. Weird. That's weird, right? You know, so it's the redefinition of the world and life and living on the terms of our culture that I think we're so scared to do, which is ultimately, remember, our culture is defined, projected, and emanated from our creator, from our supreme intelligence, gives you a culture. Your supreme intelligence says, wear your shirts like this. Your supreme intelligence tells you, eat food like this. Supreme intelligence tells you, when you see your brother, your sister, greet them like this. So forth. Supreme intelligence tells you, this is your brother, that is your sister. All of that. So everything is in the culture. Then the supreme intelligence told us something very simple. Build your house on a high place on rocky ground. Right? But I want to live on the beach and set the view. I just love. So you're going to build your house on sand. Right? I want to live in the California hills. You mean where they have mudslides like every 2 months? And those rich homes just falling, you know, down into LA? you know what I'm saying? Like, so your culture told you what to do, but you didn't feel like doing it because you've already been indoctrinated into satanic thinking from a very young age, and that becomes with the standard for your comfort and your livability. You know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Peace, Aki. Now.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom. Mm-hmm.
Peace, peace. Yeah. It's made me think about the retreat we had, and I remember telling you, like, I never thought a rock could be so comfortable.
Right.
You know, the last day of the retreat, instead of sleeping in my tent, I just found a nice little rock and I just laid on it and I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I was very like peaceful, like in a very calm type of state. And it just made me, what you were talking about reminded me of that, because it's like, no one is going to tell you like, oh, go try sleeping on a rock, like, unless they did that before, or unless they're really into like outdoors, or like that's a very niche thing. Like that's not a societal thing that somebody would say.
Right.
You know,
I dare you to go, you know, sleep on that rock.
Right. Exactly. So it's like things like that retreat, it kind of gave us that chance to, like you said, redefine what does it mean to live. What is it like? Can I live like this? Like, is this something that I can actually do? And just going through that experience made me say, like, yo, this is like, we're intense. We're amongst family. These are people who are all doing the same. We're all working towards the same goals. You know, we have that unity, and we're outside most of the time. So it's like, nobody, it's like when we're inside, right? We might wake up and then we might be in our beds for like 30 minutes, like looking at our phones or something, like turning TV on, like,
Mm-hmm.
not being active. But you in the tent, you're not about to just stay in that tent for like,
Nah,
you about to get out the tent because
right,
everybody, you
I'm
hear
done.
everybody outside and people laughing and talking. It's like, all right, let
Right,
me get out the tent. Now the sunlight's hitting you, so you're not, getting that vitamin D deficiency that you would
right.
normally have because you're inside all the time. So it's like that redefining, I think, was very prevalent during the retreat. Like just being able to experience that and just have that sort of vibe where it's like family, community, nature, just getting back to how we probably lived before a lot of the things that we have now, like a lot of things that were introduced to us.
I would totally agree, man. I mean, again, that standard given to you by Freemasons, you know, by Illuminati of like what your life is supposed to be. And when you seek to do, it's really unplugging from the grid or from the matrix, as we might say. And when you seek to do that, the smartest way to do it, like we were up there, no big announcements, right? Sometimes we want to do those things, but the grid tells us have a press conference, right?
Mhm.
And then that's if we had a press conference and said, "Yo, we're gonna move out into the wicked," I'd be in here like a couple months. You see me in handcuffs. You sit there like you see that's how the picture will look. Cut. You know. So it's like they find something, they make up something. You know what I'm saying? Oh, he had sex with a pit bull. You know what I mean? Like now with AI, they have a picture of me with a pit bull going crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we locked him up for bestiality. Because it's like you're taught, like, yeah, but what if you do it quietly? Like, no, because why do I have to make big announcements about living my culture?
Mhm.
Then you'd be surprised, like, how sustainable it actually is because you'd be left alone. It's super sustainable. There's a poor Fido. So that's the thing, man. Like you're right, man. I love being in the woods because any woods, I don't care if it's you got a patch on the side of your house.
Yeah.
Walk through it sometimes. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Because ain't nobody else. There might be some old tires or something people throw in there, but walk past the old tires and the sofas that people threw in there, and you'd be surprised. Like because there was a study done that was it was it was about 10 years ago, and it had outlined that human beings need 20 minutes a day within a natural forested area
Mhm.
for proper mental and hormonal balancing. I found that very interesting because I'm like, yeah, like especially for those of us who live in metropolis, is like you could go 5-6 months, or longer even, and not spend 20 minutes in a wooded area, but if you do, yeah, it does completely change the way you perceive things and you're not exposed to the same symbolism. It's the symbolism that starts to sink in. You're exposed to better symbolism. Something as simple. Anyone ever noticed the Chrysler logo? And if you haven't, it's a 5-pointed star inside of a hexagram. You know, Things like that, like they seep in subconsciously, and you don't realize. But you're not going to see that in the woods. You're not going to see a Gucci logo. Gucci logo is an all-seeing eye. When you put the two G's together, it's an eye in the middle, right? You're not going to see that in the woods. So there's certain things that just not even a Nickelodeon logo. I mean, I could go on and on. Paramount Pictures, where you got all the stars around the mountain. And I did the breakdown on the mountains recently with the mountains. So all of these different things you will not see in the woods. So you start to flush and cleanse yourself of that. And the more time you spend there, I mean, you got like Jason, I don't think you used your tent once. Jason slept on the ground, right? the entire time. I know I used mine once. I was only in there for a couple of hours, but outside of that, I was either outside or in the car or something. But even when I'm in the woods, I don't even want to be in the tent. Like I don't want to be behind any wall. Just if I get this time, even if it's 4 days or 5 days, I don't want to miss nothing. Even if it's just watching the fire go down, because all of that begins to flush this sort of sick psyche that we've inherited and we've adopted just being in Babylon, you know.
So I'm going back. I remember a long time ago when you was from, well, hold on. Just from you were saying that people were just too comfortable. You specifically when we was at the retreat, you was like, man, y'all are too comfortable, right? And it made me start thinking now of when you said, you know, when people say think outside of the box. But before you can think outside of the box, you have to first think inside of the box. And then when one is thinking inside of the box, then the next logical question that one would come to is, why does the box exist? But then I started thinking about like all of the things that are placed inside of a box that do get comfortable because resources are being met while they're inside of the box. So just like in that B.F. Skinner box, where it was getting the dove or it was getting the rat to perform certain things because it was controlling the resources. So now it could start to control and manipulate. And this was Amos Wilson started speaking about this shit. Because now it's controlling the resources, then ultimately it can start to control and manipulate consciousness. So now where, just like you were saying, these symbols and signs that start to now have a control on your psyche or at least seep into your subconscious, and then you can flush it out. When you're inside of the box, it's seeking in there every day. So it's now a matter of, it's not you programming and looking at certain things in a way, but it's somebody else psychologically programming you inside of that box to see things a certain way. So that therefore now you're getting away from your natural instincts and natural way that you would go about solving issues or solving problems. And now you're totally dependent upon one who is in control of those resources because they could cut those resources off. Which therefore now it's like, okay, well, how am I going to feed my family? Or how am I going to do this? Or how am I going to do that? Which would, I'm guessing, keeping one in a state of fear that if you don't act a certain way or act accordingly, then therefore you are not going to be able to receive the resources or a tax refund or a tax break or whatever it is because you're not acting right. So which would cause one then to, okay, you telling me, I'm guessing, you telling me that I'm going to walk over here and I'm going to start looking at things. You telling me to put these glasses on and see all of these faces, per se, going back to the movie yesterday. However, when I put these glasses on, maybe I don't want to see all of this because, like my man said, he was like, I got a family to feed. I forgot his name, with the black dude before he put it back. Right. And he's like, I got a family to feed.
Black dude.
I got all of these responsibilities. I ain't got time to be looking at through these glasses because then it's going to totally, change the way that I'm going to have to maneuver. And I'm like, and I ain't saying, but I'm just saying, you know what
yes, you are. I need my things now.
I'm just saying, though, I guess I'm understanding. I would have a better understanding of why it's so hard, like, and why it's like just to wake one person up, you get into that full-on fight, because inside of that box is now helping and controlling resources, which then therefore is controlling that consciousness of the person that you're speaking to.
Right. Well, I would say the first thing, like, for an example, we were up there, 4 days, I think, something like that, around there, 4 days. I slept once for the entire retreat. I only slept one night. That was the night I went into the tent, and I didn't really sleep much. But I probably got in about a good 3 hours, right? Outside of that, I think I fell asleep once sitting down. But didn't lay down. I only laid down once that whole entire time. And I was on a root at that, like where my tent was. I had a root in my ribs. So I wasn't really, and I was too tired. I was like, man, I ain't even getting up moving it. Like, I'm just going to have wake up with a cracked rib. Like, but I couldn't really barely sleep because I was sleeping on top of a tree root. But sleep is a resource. But somebody told me, especially at my age, I need 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night. But I didn't need 6 to 8 hours of sleep for 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
In 4 days, I probably got 6 hours of sleep, throughout the whole thing. So who's defining what our resources are and our dependency on them? Again, in a natural environment, like for instance, we had a sister there because we didn't have any meat dishes. We had no animal dishes there, right? Mm-hmm. So she was like, when we went to the festival, first thing she did was got some chicken and something, whatever. I don't know what it was. She's like, it was nasty. It was nasty. I was like, well, you should have ate them plants we was eating. We were eating good, but it's like, she was like, well, because she said she was like, I don't eat vegetable. My mother is the vegetarian. Like, I need meat. I need to eat some meat. Like, you need to eat an animal. Mm-hmm. You need to. Like, you never had pizza, where it's just like, we just gonna chill with the pizza tonight. Like, you have to eat a carcass, So it's like, because you've been tricked into thinking that's a resource for you. And this is no shade against meat eaters. I mean, you eat meat, but can you go a day or two without eating meat? Without going crazy, or you need certain things in order to get to sleep, stuff like that. So I would say that our resources, or our concepts of what our resources are and what we need to survive, have been redefined. When you speak about lab rats, they're lab rats. So it's like, yeah, if you run through this maze and do this, we'll give you these pellets. Rats don't eat pellets. You trained me to eat pellets. Right. Mice don't even like cheese. They only eat cheese because they're very sensitive to smell, and the smell of cheese is so pungent. They'd rather have peanut butter. So we are trained into certain appetites, into certain ideas of dependency and certain ideas of what a resource is. And then someone comes in and becomes the savior of that. Like I said, hey, well, you need a place to stay. We got these housing projects here that we'll put you in, and you need to eat. So we'll give you some food subsidy, or food stamps, or whatever they call it. We'll give you these different things. How about you give me some land and some seeds? I'll figure out the rest from there. Because you got some people, we call them crazy, who will say, I'm not going into the shelter. I'm good where I'm at. Where you live? I live on the streets by choice. Don't you have family yeah, I got family I can go to, but I'm good where I'm at. I'm free. You see? Now, mm-hmm. There's a cost for freedom. What's the cost for freedom? Well, my clothes aren't that clean, all the time. And, I haven't taken a regular bath. I got to wash up in bathrooms and stuff like that. And people look at me kind of funny. My hair is locked because I can't afford to go to no barbershop every 3 days or every 7 days or whatever. So there's a cost to this, right? But I'm willing to pay the cost to have my freedom. So I think it's important as a community, especially as men and women, that we define what our resources are. Because I know, because again, what is re? Re is to look again. It is to go back. It is Ra, source. The source of the beginning is a resource. So when we're at a retreat and I'm around my community, I don't really need sleep as a resource. I'm not that hungry. I still have, in fact, I didn't even finish it. I had a bag of trail mix the whole retreat, and I'm just grabbing water because it was hot. Obviously, it was super hot. But I'm just grabbing bottles of water. I'm doing water and trail mix. When it was time to eat, it's like, oh, yeah, I'll eat, but I ain't really stressing it. Because I didn't really need that. I didn't really need a whole lot of food. I didn't really need a whole lot of sleep. But then once I got back down into the concrete jungle, I was exhausted. You know what I mean? I slept for like 2 days and hungry, because now I'm back in an environment that's pulling. Even when I'm sleeping in my bed, there's something pulling at me because I got electromagnetic waves leaking out of the power outlets in my bedroom. So I'm constantly got something that's gimme. But when I'm in the woods, everything is here. here. I could just stand there and look at a tree. Or like one night we were there, it had rained prior, and the wind was blowing in such a way that the leaves, the trees, it sounded like it was raining, but it wasn't raining. It was just, we were surrounded by that many trees, and it's the sound that the leaves made. I think Abba Harud made a note of that. He was like, wow, that's interesting. So it's like, everything's here. Take this. Take this. I got something more for you. There's even little bugs on the ground you can look at. Everything's giving and nothing is taking. So therefore, I don't require the same sort of resources that I would as if I were in a foreign environment and I'm trying to recreate the comfort that I naturally have there in the woods. You know.
I'm a back here, Master Middle. Did you want to say something before?
Peace. Go ahead.
Peace, brother.
Peace.
Shalom.
Yeah, man. I was just coming in off of I think I came in when you were talking about resources and how we're tricked into thinking we need certain things. And I often know how when you say if I was those other folks, I would probably be doing the same thing.
Definitely.
And I always admire, like, even if I'm irritated by someone who does something to me, I kind of admire when something intended, like someone can pull off their intention. Like,
right.
even if I'm furious with you for what you just did, it's like, yo, that was kind of slick. I ain't gonna lie.
Right.
It was like when we were younger, my brother was real slick. Like how you were talking about you between wise and slick. He was slick. So we did something to where both of us were supposed to get beaten. I got beaten by my mother. He didn't get it because he was outside. And then she said, when your father comes home, he's going to beat both of you. So he timed when my old man was coming home. And we were like, maybe, I think I was like 7 and he was like 10. And he put on my old man's bomber jacket. So this is like the sleeves are hanging off of him and everything. Like it's going down past his knees to close to his ankles. My old man already knew what the mission was when he came on his side. I gotta see what's going on. He was bad behind kid. He just ran with Daddy. He just bust out laughing. He was laughing so hard he couldn't beat him. And I was like, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I think of that? But it's the same thing with these people. Like, you have an agenda to cut me off at every point. Like if I say, I don't like the way this food tastes. Well, I got like 62 other flavors you can try. You don't have to eat nothing healthy. You can eat bad food just in a different genre of bad food.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like living in the city. It's too dangerous. Well, why don't you live over here? We have a project going on over here. You can just borrow money so you can live in a better neighborhood so you don't feel unsafe. But I also have these movies out where everything heinous that's ever going to happen to you is going to happen in the woods, in a cabin. Like that's the last place you want to be ever.
Right. Right.
Anytime something happens in a horror movie, there's always this old rickety cabin in the woods. So nature bad, city good. Because the one solution to that is to run to the city. Get around lights, get around noise, get around.
Get to the mall.
Get to the mall. Right? Get around a crowd and just make noise. Draw attention to yourself. That's how you stay safe. So if no one knows where you are, if you don't call nobody to check in with them every single day, somebody done kidnapped you. So I got to stay in touch with my family. So I got to make sure everybody knows where I am and how I'm living with. Like, I got to report on myself. Every social norms are surveillance norms.
Right.
Like it's surveillance protocol, but you're enacting the protocol. And we're so, like how you're talking about how we're so asleep, we'll still do stuff like even though I still do it, like put tape over your webcam. Like they're watching me. You watching yourself. They don't need to do it. But you'll take these small, you'll take these small precautions and think you just did something. Meanwhile, the larger agenda has you to the point where it's like asking a fish to describe water. You can't even see it happening.
Right.
So that's what I want to do.
No, those are good points you make, man. Like, being immersed in the mix of it all, and having these options thrown in front of you, like they are the logical options. And anything you pick outside of that, it's like, why would you want to do that, huh? Like it's the social contract, that we speak about, that social contract theory, where we could be sovereign and live in the wild, but we lose the protection of the group. But once we enter into the group, then we lose some of our personal liberties. And that's the social contract that we make. And again, it's never based off of the dictates and mandates of my community. And again, that's why it's important to understand the origins of things. Like I think I spoke recently about the mountains and how the kings would go to these tents and they would come up with decrees. Well, in the Babylonian system, you have kings and rulers. Like I said, you got those 13 families, but you have kings and rulers who they use magic, they use religion, they use war, they use politics. They use all of these different things to control society, to keep society on a certain sort of lockdown. And we just don't, like I said, some of them are right in our faces, but we don't make the connection between, oh man, look at that symbol over there, or look at that idea that they're pushing there, or, they would just say symbols and ideas. And we don't make the connection that this goes up. If you trace this, it goes like, you always watch those movies when like it's a cop investigating something and the captain will be like, leave this alone. This goes higher than you think. Leave it alone. That's like how this is. It's like, because if you trace it back, you're going to find out, again, like I mentioned some of the families, you're going to find out like the Van Dyne family. You're going to see these names pop up. The Lee family. Lee is another big ancient family, L-I. We see a L-E-E, which is, like the American spelling, but the original, same Lee. He was cactus. But the Lee family, the Freeman family, all of these different. So there are people who sat back. The Disney family, I left out Disney earlier, but there are people who sit back and say like, this is how we're going to do this. And everyone has a specialty. Disney, we're going to use, cartoons and stuff like that. Kennedy, the Onassis family is another one, and you'll do the oil. You'll get into the oil, Standard Oil, and this one, and we'll do this and that one to do that. And then we're trying to make decisions, the best decisions for our lives based on the options that these 13 families put in front of us. Insanity. Instead of saying, well, wait a minute, I come from 12 tribes. Now, when you start using that, it gets dangerous, because you're going to find that your 12 tribe reality is completely opposite from the 13 family reality. Even though they're picking and pulling aspects of your culture to construct dynasties, but they're working from the bottom up. Like their deity is shouting orders from, then do this, and do that, and do that, whereas ours is from the top down. Because they're in their bizarre world. They're an opposite reflection of what we're supposed to be. But we're using this opposite reflection and wondering why we're hardly ever happy. Because everything we're doing is the opposite of how we're supposed to do it. We wear rubber soles on our shoes all the time. Even though we know when we walk around barefoot on the grass, it feels great. And we know we need to have strong feet, especially as you get older. You got to have strong feet. That will avoid so many injuries, falling for no reason, stuff like that. But we wear rubber soles, which insulates us from the electromagnetic energy of the earth. Because everybody knows rubber's an insulator. You need to touch something where you could get electrical shock, you wear rubber gloves. So we wear rubber shoes. This is the opposite of what we're supposed to do, right? That's just one example. but there's so many things that we do that are diametrically opposed to to what actually keeps us alive. We go out in the woods and it's like, man, I feel better out here and I'm at peace out here. But then we make fun of hillbillies. We make fun of rednecks, you know, who for the most part, they live pretty good lives. They're peaceful. They go, they watch their wrestling, they do their hunting, they ride their motorcycles, they drink their big gulps. You know, they go to the Walmart, and they usually live in areas that look like paradise. They live in beautiful woodland areas with mountains and streams. And, you know, they don't like the government much, but we make fun of them. And then we sort of promote and glorify the sophistication of the civilized, quote unquote, person in the city who actually probably has zero survival skills. You know, so yeah, I would say it's the structure that we're pulling those choices from is actually killing us.
I even think of like,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. I even think of like, you know, the Quakers or the Mormons or, you know, these groups who have made the decision to say, you know what, we're going to live out this culture and we're going to be set apart. You know, like we're supposed to be living like, you know, like Israel, you know what I'm saying? They said, we're going to make the decision to live like this. And people will look at them like, oh, they're weird. Why is she dressing like this? Why is he looking like this? Why are they always doing that? Why are they always doing this? Like when you might see them in like a supermarket or something. But other than that, they're living the way that they want to. And they're living in a way that is free, and it's beyond the social convention in many ways, I would say. So when I see stuff like that, it kind of makes me think of that idea of like sanctification or being set apart for a specific purpose, and not necessarily living according to what's been given to us by the beast system, but what we're supposed to be living as defined by our culture.
Right. And that's the biggest tragedy when your culture was stolen. When your history, that's why I said the worst thing you could do to a people ever is to steal their history, from to rob them of their knowledge of their own history. Because now you have just made us forget the chains and all that. You made a slave right in that moment. Because what do I do? Other than what you tell me to do? You wake up, you know, from a coma, you have amnesia, and somebody stands in front of you and says, hey, I'm your daddy. And somebody else says, and I'm your wife. I don't remember you. Trust me, though. You know, and you know what I'm saying? That's basically what our experience has been here. But, you know, that's why Yahushua came with the culture, was like, nah, man, you doing it wrong. You know, and when we start to live that, like, yeah, like Mormons are, and the Mennonites, they are like, yo, they're hardcore, man. Because especially those Mennonites, they go into areas, like any area. I was watching a documentary years ago where I think they were in, I want to say Ecuador. And this dude, he came over, he had like no money. He was a Mennonite, and he was responsible. They were in one community. He was responsible for going out to find another community, right? But that meant just going out to wherever you could find the cheapest land, buy it, and then they just start to build. And the documentary was so deep because he flew, he brought his family, they flew, I gotta find it, and I'll give y'all the name of it. And they're like in Ecuador somewhere, and to get to the land that he was looking at, like there was no road. So it was like a 3-day journey on the back of like a motorcycle trike, and then they had to walk because there was no real roads there. And then it's just bush. And he gets there, he's like, yeah, that's good, yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yo, like this is wow. And then they just start knocking trees down and start building. You know what I'm saying? But it's like literally in the middle of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? And his wife and his children are there. And then like once he came, I think that his brother came because they had basically he sold all his furniture and everything to get over there. So they showed up with like no money. And it was like, well, no, but we have the land though. And just started building off of the land and doing what they needed to do. And then I think his brother came and others came. But you know, there's such an amazing sort of rugged science to that being set apart, because now you're setting new standards for yourself. You know, because sometimes again we just don't realize where our standards of what's cool, what's safe, what we should do, and the ages we should do them. Because I think the guy was 40 something. I want to say early, because he said his age. I remember. I want to say mid to early 40s. You know, but in Babylon, that's like, take it easy. You know,
Right.
you don't need to lift no free weights. Here's some resistant bands. You just pull these. It's easier on the joints. Avoid injury. You know, it's like, yeah, you're almost dead now. You know, and I'm looking at this dude like going through the middle of the jungle with the, you know what I'm saying, like with the same black pants on and the hat. And I'm like, yo, ain't he hot? He's got to be hot. You know what I'm saying? The bed, all that, you know, and he's just going into the middle of the woods, you know, and I'm like, this is beautiful, but it's again because his standard has been established basically by Torah, because that's what they follow is Torah. Their standard has been followed by something different. A lot of us, like I mentioned one of the families before, the Astor family. I think I mentioned the Astor. That's an interesting family when you learn about them. Their patriarch, I think his name was John Astor. But anytime you see Astor, last name, that's Ishtar or Astarte. That's where that name comes from. You know, anytime you see that somebody's last name Astor, it's actually Astarte. You know, or in Sufism we say Ishtar, right? And I did a whole presentation on the origins of Easter, and I broke down Astarte, so I'm gonna have to get into that. But when he came over very poor. He was related to I want to say either the Roosevelts or the Rockefellers. He was like a cousin or something. But he came over and he established the fur trade. And then after he established the fur trade, he got heavy into the opium trade, you know, which is drugs. You know, and it's interesting, if you look at what the Astor families does today, they're heavy in like cosmetics and things like that. And you know, I had shared one time, it was years ago, we were speaking about like just the witchcraft or the beguilement aspect of makeup. And I said, yeah, they're all making the same face. And then it might have been a live show, and somebody was like, what face is that? I was like, look up Astarte. So anytime you see whether it's a transformer or whether it's a biological woman, you'll notice that when they do the face, it's always the same. They look exactly the same. Everybody makes the same exact face. It's Astarte. But that agenda came out of the Astor family, who's named for Astarte. You know, so it's again, yeah, we choose these different options, man, and don't realize who put the choice in front of us. You know.
I think that segment was when the sisters were breaking down Maleficent.
I think you're right. Yeah. I think you're right. That sounds about right. Yeah. I think you're right.
Somewhere in the chat, I remember that. I was like, huh, that's what their face is, because they all do the same. Like you go on Instagram, everyone has the same face.
Right. You can't tell them apart. And now they all got the same butt. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's like between the BBL and it's like, yeah, everybody. And I'm talking about from dudes who I used to play football with to, you know what I mean? He was Hank when we was kids. Now he's, you know, Henrietta. It's like, but it's the same face, the same butt, you know? Right.
Yeah, I was, who was it? I think me and Yamino were talking about it. That's when all of us were driving now from the retreat. Mm-hmm. One of the Transformers was walking across the street. And it's like, they always, like, you become a woman just to hypersexualize it. That's it. Or what you think is a woman, just to hypersexualize yourself. But they didn't even get, like, They didn't have the full thing yet. They just had like spears sticking out in front of their shirt with no problem.
Okay.
It's like they could eat a salad with them things. But they always do it. Like they always put it right in your face. Like sex. Like, okay, that's all the woman is to you. It's just sex.
Or that's what the need is for them. Some may be calling out for masculinity. Some may be calling out for their fathers. So it's like, how can I get a man close to me? What's the fastest way I can get a man in my face, touching me, loving on me, quote unquote, is this, because maybe I don't know how to relate to a man any other way, or maybe because I've been related to by a male in this way. So I don't know any other way to connect,
Yeah. But I can't say that's confusion though, because that's hate speech. Yeah, they always kind of like they always head you off right before you turn through the right corner.
They're ready for you. They're ready for you before you. That's the science of like establishing a system. Like it's like when the seraphim came up to Eve in the garden, and he already had his. And he knew what she was gonna say. Hey, did he say you could eat of every tree? He knew the answer. Now we can't be. Let me tell you about that. So the system is already in place to know what the response should be. I'm gonna head you off on it. No, I'm telling you, man, you be like a god. He had his speech already ready. So a lot of times we don't realize that there's a system in this program language, and a lot of it is fallacious doublespeak. We have a term that we use in the West, free enterprise, right? There's no such thing as that. Because we live in a place where if you do business with someone or an entity that has been ostracized, it could be for a political reason or whatever, then your business will be attacked. That's not free enterprise. That's communism. We will tell you how to run your business, even how much you can make and who you will do business with. That's why when Kanye West went through situations, like the banks were like, man, get your money up out of here. Your money is poison. Get it up out of here. Because we don't live in a free enterprise. So we're constantly within the sort of matrix of a linguistic doublespeak. So when you start acknowledging and recognizing things for what they are, there's already an answer waiting. There's already a response waiting to shut you down.
Speaking of the Matrix, that reminds me of like the way the architect would respond to Neo. Like he would always call him the anomaly because everything else in my system works properly. And if I got a whole 13 families set up and something just pops up that I did not foresee happening because life be lifing, you always see something you didn't expect to happen. Even if you've been here for 500 years, you're still going to see something you're going to see something that'll make you tilt your head to the side at least once a year.
Right. Right.
So you come up with something and they weren't prepared for it, you either getting recruited or attacked. And that was like the red pill, blue pill sort of situation where you stay a part of the system. We'll come see you in suits and shades and tell you how you should pivot. You can still do what you do, but the bulk of whatever you produce, the profits of that has to come to me. The bulk of the profits has to come to me. Then you could take your 5% off the top, and you're gonna be happy with that. And if you're like, I always like that speech that John Goodman made in the movie The Gambler.
I know the one you're talking about.
If you say F you,
he killed it.
That's a different sort of reality if you say F you, because if you don't have that type of money, or if you don't have those type of stores, then whatever you build up after that point, you're building up for them to take it. If you don't build it up without putting your own system in place to protect you, if you get exposed, if you're smart, you be quiet about it.
Speaking of the Matrix.
Yeah, that's why I was quiet, because I was like, I'm not. I know my place.
It's making me think of something that you said as far as, you know, your L is where the action is. And you referenced the action was in that location where, you know, Neo had to go meet old girl, say, am I the one, the Oracle? And I'm thinking, why can't, if it's where the action is, then it's where, and then I started thinking about like erecting Solomon's temple, or wherever one is, then that's where L would be, right? But then I started thinking, no.
It's not about where you at, it's about who you be and what you do. It's the activity that establishes the tabernacle of L.
Uh-oh. We still here. We still here.
Okay. The Matrix. Mm-hmm.
So it's not about where you're at. It's about, so if you're doing and being in that location, then it can be wherever you're at, depending on what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So then I started thinking about, is it Colombo? Is that when my man was in the mountains and then moved him to the beach or something? And then he ultimately started losing all of his power. That's Colombo.
You mean when he married, when he got with the white woman?
He was up in the mountains, and then they was like, "You got to move," and they was fighting, and then there was because El Corral. It was fighting, and then they didn't want to give up their location, and then finally he gave up the location, and he ended up moving to like the beach or something, and then
he moved
totally
to ground,
fell
right?
off. I don't know that one.
You never
John Wick. Sound like some John Wick.
John Wick.
Screw it. All right. Where is El Corral, man?
Columbia. He says it's Columbia, the TV show. Okay. I don't have any kind of cable with us. All right. It's a TV show, Columbia.
That ain't a TV show. It's a movie.
You talking about Colombo, right?
Yes.
Oh, Colombo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, just your explanation was that didn't have no kind of Colombo vibe to it.
I got it from you. Like, what the
Okay, all right. That's like my favorite movie. So I was like, yeah, okay.
Say, come on, T. You the one watch it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and you described it right. Yeah, okay, yeah. Update it. Yeah.
Why then would it matter where somebody is located or situated in order to still have a connection? And I mean, I know it's just a movie, but I'm using it as a reference of saying that when he did give up that land is when then he did ultimately concede all of his power. But I don't think that it would change anything if he was still doing the same thing in that new location as he was in the old location.
Yeah, because remember, he had the power of Shango. So once he started negotiating with his enemies like that and falling for the okie-doke, he lost the Ashe, or the anointing of Shango. That was the actual issue. It wasn't that they moved, because you remember it was his understudy, you know, zombie was it Gunga? I'm messing up his name. But he had the energy of Ogun. So he was like, no, we got to keep cutting their neck. Like, no, we fight till we can't fight anymore. So he never actually lost his anointing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was Zumbi, I think it was Zumbi, who was like, oh, well, you know, because he was always falling for the okie-doke, you know, and he was like, we can negotiate with them. And then that's when, like, his anointing was like, that's not how we act. I'm out.
He started just like Yuya after that.
He went off, you know, because the pirate prostitute, she was more about it than he was.
The white woman. That's what I was talking about. White woman.
Right, but he was always about the integration. He was always bringing different ones in, but he lost that warrior spirit. So that was the issue.
But then wouldn't that go back to like when you said earlier of one living between wisdom and, you know, that slippery area of if you're down here and somebody says, okay, you got to pay taxes, you're going to have to figure out either how to get around it or you're going to have to pay taxes. At some point.
Well, you don't.
Go ahead.
You don't get around it. Can any of you brothers go out in a rainstorm and not get wet?
Nah, I was
No.
I still got wet.
Yeah, I was in my tent.
I do it in the book. He's like, walk between the raindrops.
Right. Yeah, dive between the raindrops. You can't. See, because we're talking about the Matrix. The Matrix taught you that. If you notice, when Neo first wakes up, he had the nightmare about the bug inside of him. It was raining. When he was outside, it was raining. The movie starts off with rain. What's the rain? The rain is the code. If you notice, whenever you saw the code come down, the binary, it always came down in raindrops. Because it's showing you that you are being completely submerged. And so you should have known this, Zach. Come on now. Come on now. You know what I'm saying? I gave this film to you. I just let you like, yeah, that's gonna be your film. Come on now. You know, but the sprinkles of that rain, even when Morpheus is held in the building, it's raining. When Neo is in the office, there's a window cleaner outside cleaning the window, right? So he's putting soap and water on the window, showing that we are constantly raining on your that was the binary code raining on your reality. You are submerged inside of this code, this code, if you will. So you can't get around it. Can't get around it. You got to learn to decode it, become it, and then conquer it. This is the only thing you can do. You see. So even inside of Babylon, like, yeah, it is very tempting to say, hey, let's just go live in the woods. What happens when the sheriff shows up? You know, do you know your rights? Do you know how to defend yourself legally? If they say, well, we need this land because we need to run some railroad tracks through here, you know, so we can cut the commute time for people down to 15 minutes. So we need this land, right? Do you know how to protect that land so that it's not taken over by eminent domain? You know, so you learn how to master the Matrix because it's constantly raining down around you. Even right now, as we speak, we're being soaked by the code of the Matrix.
So was that the science of Neo jumping into the agent and then like blasting him?
Yep.
The light
becoming him. Yeah. He like, I'm gonna become you, you know, because remember he died.
Yeah.
You know, Neo died like 2-3 times in the movie because when he woke up from the Matrix, he woke up in water, meaning I woke up, I'm still in the code. You know, so it's like he's constantly waking up into different levels of the code, and then when they kill him, then he absorbs himself into Agent Smith's body, becomes Agent Smith, and then turns Agent Smith into him within the Matrix. So he learns to master that system before he can actually move through it with any kind of sovereignty.
It's interesting too, because even though Agent Smith, he became something sort of different after that encounter with Neo.
Right.
He still really only tried to interact with the Matrix the way he used to. He would just copied himself into like different programs. They would change into them anyway. He was just finding a way to be in more places at once. And it wasn't until he like got into someone who was free and left the system, he started doing some more creative stuff.
Well, the reality is they never left the system. They never left the Matrix. Mm-hmm. Even when they were in Zion, they were in the Matrix. They never left.
Like when the architect rewrote it. And you saw it at the end of the last one where you had this beautiful sunset. It's like, yeah, I made that.
I made that, right. Like what you thought, like it's over. Like, no, this is it, buddy. You ain't getting out of this. So it's the use of matrix technology. Think about the first time when the Nebuchadnezzar shot that EMP. If you notice, what the Nebuchadnezzar shot was light. There was two themes inside of that movie that were important to pay attention to. The rain, there was a lot of rain, and light. Those were the two concepts, because the light was the being, or the light, the realization of consciousness inside of the real world was the light. So when they shot the EMP off, the electromagnetic pulse, it was a beam of light. And that's what disrupted the code. So it's the knowledge, the consciousness of being, the consciousness of awareness is what starts to allow you to see the code for what it is. So you have to get into environments and spaces where your self-awareness is cultivated and not locked down.
Okay, so even like in Revelations, when Neo lost his two eyes, his eyesight, and everything he was seeing was like light. He could see the machine city, but he was just seeing light.
Right, because he was finally awakened to the consciousness of what the reality truly was. See, that's what the true light is. It's the consciousness. So he goes into machine city, and it's like we're seeing, because the whole movie we were not seeing through Neo's eyes, we were seeing through Trinity's eyes. That's the science of the movie. We're seeing through Trinity's eyes. So once he lost his physical eyesight, now he's moving with divine energy. So now we're seeing through Neo's eyes of divine energy, because he's been truly awakened to the reality. Like, man, they down there fighting, but it don't even really matter.
Yeah, it's the whole series. Everyone else was telling him what he was supposed to see.
Right,
like
exactly.
He was relying on Morpheus to tell him what he's supposed to see. The Merovingian, he was relying on the Oracle, like Trinity, like you say. He was relying on everyone else to tell him what he was supposed to see or what he's supposed to do. And he's always saying that, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
I don't know. Because he was still asleep throughout the majority of the movie. He was asleep. So it wasn't until he lost his physical eyesight that he now is. It's the consciousness that's piercing the unconscious. That was the whole science when he goes up above the clouds and they see the sun. It's like, oh, this has been here the whole time, and they go back down into the darkness of the unconsciousness, So everybody who was down there was asleep. Even Morpheus and all, they were all still asleep because none of them had pierced the unconsciousness with light.
What's up, brother Zach?
Yeah, he like, nah.
He charges. Charge it up. He's winding up.
You don't tell me about you don't tell me.
I helped write the script, brother.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Sophia who?
Hold on. Morpheus wasn't able to pierce the darkness? Is that what you're saying? Or pierce the...
He never pierced the darkness because he believed that Neo was the one the entire time, and he was the one. Because you remember what the Oracle said? Morpheus represented religion. She said, Morpheus just believes in you so much. So it was the belief that drove Morpheus forward. It wasn't knowledge. It wasn't an awakened consciousness, but he was like the Pope of because think about it, he's going to the Oracle all the time, who was God, and he was like the high priest of God, like a Yahweh. He was really the one. He was the gateway that was waking everybody up. But Neo just represented a point of belief, and his belief was so powerful that he was using the strength of his belief to motivate the entire revolutionary force. But it was belief. It wasn't truth. So when Neo finally lost his eyesight, now it's like I can see the accurate statements of what truly is. I've risen above the clouds.
But he was right though. Neo was the one.
Yeah. No, Neo wasn't one. Morpheus was one. What did Neo do?
He killed an agent. There's more than Morpheus.
He was an agent. Him and Agent Smith were the same person. Remember, his name is Thomas Anderson. Thomas means twin. Anderson means son of man. Ander means manly.
Right. That's
so that's why Cypher was like, "You're scared to bar Jesus out of me." Him and Smith, this is my brother. He ain't kill nothing.
That's why he
just came into the reality of when they conjoined and they fought. That was like the reality, like, oh, we the same thing. Smith knew it.
Well, that would be in the sense, though, like you saying that that Satan always recreates what an heir wants to make, right? So I'm assuming that it was recreated from, that would be Satan, which would technically be like cast from heaven. I will be better than you. And then Neo coming back and saying, okay, if this is my brother or we're made essentially from the same thing, I can still beat this thing.
They switched it up a little bit. Cypher, who was supposed to be Lucifer, he was actually Satan. Agent Smith was Lucifer, and really Morpheus was Yahushai, but Neo was supposed to be Yahushai. Remember, Lucifer and Satan ain't the same person. Because Agent Smith had all the information. He was the light bearer. He's like, let me tell you something about who you really are. Let me tell you something about this, and you stink, and this and that. You know, he had all the information. Whereas Neo's just being, like you said, he's following orders. You see? So, they just switched it up a little bit. Cypher was an important, man, every character was important in that movie, actually. If you really, like, even the female with the blonde hair, I can't remember her name right now, they got killed. But Dozer was important. Hank was important. Yeah, she was just like, God.
Not like this.
Right, yeah. She was like, not like this. Like, she was an important character. Tank was important. Dozer was important. Look at their names. They gave them comedic names. Ta'ank, Dozer. You know what I'm saying? And then said, oh, we don't have ports. We were always free. That's crazy. So like, you got to look at how race. Because later, when the Wachowski brothers were asked about that movie, they said the movie was about trans, going across gender and transhumanism.
Right. Appeal.
Yeah, come on. Like, first of all, you didn't even write the movie, so let's start there. Everybody knows by now you stole the movie. So it wasn't about that. But if you look at every single character, it was a comedic. It was the Haru story. It was the Yahushai story. It was the story of Buddha. But every character had a specific rhyme and reason in that sense. Even when the Oracle was talking about the architect, she was like, oh, the man has no imagination. That was significant. The fact that she was smoking a cigarette was significant. Like, all of that meant something.
Go back and watch it tonight.
Can I break down from you, brother?
Can I ask you something? Just to, hey, first of all, peace, everybody.
Shalom, brother.
Peace.
Peace.
So, with the events that's been going on in the media of late, and it might seem a little bit mundane, what do you think going on with what plan do you think is being acted out with this Trump getting shot and stuff like that? What in the media just going against him? What is the signal the elite is throwing at us?
How do you see it?
I knew that was coming.
I see it as a symbolism of sovereignty, or freedom is being crushed in front of our face.
How so? Can you explain it?
the reason why I say that is because you have a symbolic person. He may not be doing anything. A symbolic person, a self-made billionaire, a man, you know, that want to go against all this LBGTQ, all this stuff here, and they are just heavily pumping propaganda to one side and crushing this person, making this person seem demonized, while the people who's into the transhumanism, the what they call transhumanism, um, they feel as they are right in the media, and there's no balance. There's no balance to what's really going on. It's just one sided.
So you're saying, who's they
But
to get beyond these pronouns?
we haven't Democrat Republican, right? So you got this Trump as a symbolic figure as masculinity, and you have the other side that's, and also too, you have them kind of leaning towards I want my freedom back, the Republicans, and kind of going against, they trying to rally against the small hat people, and but the small hat people in their group, they want open borders, they want uh the public school system, they want all the programs that you was just recently talking about that keeps you tied to Big Brother, which is the Democrats. So I feel as if they are crushing freedom right in front of our face, are attempting to take it
When you
away.
say they, who is it they that is crushing freedom?
Uh, the best, my guess would be the elite. That I don't know who they are. Or that's why I'm saying, what family do
Well, you
you
just
think
said
is?
who they are. You said the elite.
Yeah,
So
the elite.
the term elite begins with L.
Hmm.
So you're saying gods. The gods are crushing your freedom.
Hmm. Not my God.
Oh,
Might be
okay.
theirs.
Well, you said it. You said the gods are crushing freedom. So the gods are crushing whose freedom?
The people who allowed it to be taken away.
Okay. But I guess they would have to worship those gods first to give them
They
that
have
power.
to. They will have to be in a position, because you were saying earlier in the show, you were saying earlier that you wasn't impressed by that system because you're not in that system. So the people that are in the system, they're going to be oppressed, but those people are melanated people. A
I'm
lot
in
of
the
melanin.
system. I'm in the system.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you're not relying on the system.
No, I don't rely on the system. I mean, but I'm in it. You know, I do have paperwork in the system. I do own property that is registered within the system. You know, I'm in the system. You know, but I think it's important when it's very easy to get distracted with certain you got to understand that everything that you're seeing on social media and TV is a play. It's everybody's acting. You know, so when we start to look at what we're analyzing is another movie. You know, when we use terms like they, well, who's they, and what is my connection? What is the power dynamic that I have with they? That's the first question you have to ask. If we say, okay, they're crushing freedom, what freedom? What freedom do we have that can be taken as people in America, whether you want to say melanin rich people or just people with some damn sense? What freedoms do we have that can actually be taken away that we actually do enjoy? That have been granted to us by the state? I don't know any. I mean, if you know something, you could tell me, but I can't think of one freedom. I mean, I remember when I was younger going to get a driver's license. I remember getting endorsements on that driver's license for different things. I remember getting business licenses. I remember going and paying money for all these different licenses and permits and things that I do have. But when I awoken from a closed state, and when my eyes were open, I don't remember the state having anything to do with that. I didn't have to apply for a license to waking up into proper erect consciousness. And that was actually when I became free, when I actually was able to see, you know, or like when Morpheus said, unfortunately, no one can be told what the matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. I don't remember the state ever granting that to me. So I don't believe the state could take that away from me. So what are we defining as freedom?
Well, the private right to, you was talking about how the families organized and how they got certain powers. The freedoms, they are, well, the freedom the small hats, or the certain families, which I don't know which family this is. You said what family is a part of politics? The McDonald's, or you
Bunch
know,
of them.
bunch
Bundy's,
of,
the McDonald's, the DuPonts, the you know, the Roosevelts, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, because
mhm.
it's all politics. You know, it's everything is politics.
And what they're saying, what they're eventually want to get to is, let's say if you go buy some property and then you see, you were saying earlier too, the sheriff show up. Hey, I need this. You can't own anything.
Well, I don't know about that because, like, again, there's a larger story there. Like I gave more if the sheriff showed up, what would actually happen, right? But why would they care about my property? Where is my property? Was I dumb enough to buy property inside of a city or a metropolis? Was I that dumb? Because somebody told me that they're building up this area and they're gentrifying and they're developing here, so this property is going to be worth a lot of money. Was I dumb enough to fall for that? Or was I like the Mennonite who went into the middle of nowhere on a piece of land that nobody has cared about for 1,000 years and built a community there where the drones can't even go because the batteries will run out in the drones? Was I that brilliant, or was I dumb enough to build on the outskirts of Babylon because I need to get back and forth to my job?
Yeah, they told you where to be at. You know, go over here.
Right. The suburbs there. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. It's like you have to, even when we look at the different bloodlines of those different families, whether it's, again, the Disney family, the Reynolds family, the Bundys, the Onassis, the Lees, they're not necessarily free because they still have masters that they have to answer to. You know, they haven't been made free. They just have a long-standing agenda, you know, to serve off-world masters.
Mm. Everybody got somebody to answer to.
Yeah. You know, so there's a difference when you're following a tradition. I mean, again, look at the Lee, spell Lee backwards. And you see what you got. L. You see who the Astor family, Astarte, the Rothschild, the Red Shield. The Red Shield was when they had it was the U families, the J families. This was a time of takeover, and they were able to put their insignia on a shield, and that on a banner, a crest, you know. But then that banner became the 5-pointed star, the hexagram, which they then say, oh, that's the Star of David, right? But they're still bound. Like I said, you have families that use magic, religion. Once you use magic, you immediately are bound to something that's bestowing the magic onto you. And religion, well, what source are you binding people to? Of course, they'll tell you like, oh, we're Christian. Everybody's a Christian. You know what I'm saying? And that's supposed to set you at ease, because that's supposed to disarm you. Like I always said, man, the revolution pop off, you get, 50 brothers marching down the street ready to tear stuff up. All somebody got to do is stand in front and say, Christian. And everybody going to bow their heads and pray. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry. Be safe, brother. Go inside. Be safe.
Right. I'm praying for you, brother. That's how you shut it all down. Christian.
It remind me of remind me of a meme that's going around. It is a bunch of sheep in the field, and the wolf is on the podium, and he said, the wolf said, "If you elect me, I'm gonna go vegan."
See?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that is the reality of what. But again, it's like, are you the captive audience? Always remember that an audience is lower thought. So if a wolf is somewhere giving a speech and I decide that I'm going to go stand in the audience, I now decide to be a part of the mind matrix of that wolf. So of course I'm going to be fooled. I eat my own lower thoughts. I have thoughts within my head right now where I'm saying, yeah, I only need to think like that for another year. Then I'm going to get rid of that thought. Or I'm going to flush that out in 2 months. So you become the lower thoughts when you decide to be the captive audience of these parasitic elite that you refer to. You become their lower thoughts that they flush out when they no longer have a use for them. Or you could be a part of the mind of a more supreme intelligence that says, I'm a good shepherd. Don't worry, I got you. I'm not going to flush you out, because in my Father's house, there are many dwelling places. I have a place for you that I'm establishing for you. But these other cats are going to use you. They're zombies. They're going to eat your brains. They're going to devour you. So I think that's a significant thing. It's like when Neo said to the agents, I'm gonna show people what you don't want them to see, a world without you. That was like one of the most powerful lines. I'm gonna show people a world without you. So even now, like, the parasitic elite always find their way into our conversations. But can we imagine a world without them? No, because we don't know how to bend. You see that? Because just like the boy said, then you will see it as it is. There is no spoon. It is only yourself. Remember that line when Neo was trying to bend the spoon? It's like, no, it ain't no spoon here. It's just you. But what is you? Can you stand on the foundations of you without introducing or adding on to or inviting parasitic elite into the discourse?
The spoon is just a barrier between you and yourself. Really, it's just a barrier. It's just a thing that's put there for you can stall or overthink or procrastinate.
Well, you asked about Trump getting popped, almost popped. I don't care. I don't care nothing about him. Mm-hmm. I don't care nothing about Biden. I don't care nothing about none of them. Mm-hmm. I recognize, I know what they are, because when you understand the system, see, watching that stuff is for people who weren't invited in. That's supposed to keep you distracted. Like I told you, we are in World War III. Mm-hmm. How many news outlets are telling you that we're actually in World War III right now? We watching some old man get shot. So what, man? I've been grazed. You be all right. I got grazed and got right on the train and went home. Right in my shoulder. You know what I'm saying? It happens every day. People get popped. So, but what's the larger agenda here? The larger agenda is that, okay, World War III has popped off. Y'all were talking about aliens a lot last year. Now you're not talking about aliens at all. But last year it was like, oh, we seeing objects, we seeing this in there, we seeing that in there. Now you're not talking about it. Wasn't that kind of important? Are they gone? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
So it's like you got to understand when the distractions are happening. You got distractions in pop culture, you know, and then like the Diddy stuff, all that's distractions. Like, you talking about something this dude been doing for years. Everybody knew he was doing this. Why are you bringing it up now?
Yeah.
So we get distracted by Diddy, but the Diddy distraction is for you dark faces. It's for you darkies. So after we distract you darkies with Diddy, then now we got to go get Jethro and Hezekiah and all them other hillbillies up in the hills. Let's pop, you know, homie in the air. Now the hillbillies are distracted. So we got everybody distracted while World War III is happening. The last New World Order, the change of money that happened right after World War II. That's when the monetary units were changed. That's what's getting ready to happen. So no one's even talking about cryptocurrency anymore or the government's involvement in cryptocurrency. You see, that's a change. That's a flip over of things. We talking about homie got popped in the air and freedoms. What freedoms? I have never been granted freedom in this country ever. My grandmother wasn't granted freedom. Her grandmother wasn't granted freedom. We never had any freedom that was bestowed to us by invaders. That wouldn't make sense. I barely have any liberties. You know, so I'm not paying attention to that. If we're talking about eminent domain and things like that, you have to move wisely. But what if the government says, get up and leave? I'm Harlem Nights. I'm out. Because I understand I'm on enemy territory. I'm not sitting here getting comfortable. This is enemy territory. I love when I go to the continent and I see police officers. I love it. Because they got good jobs. And the police officers are darker and dark. Talk about some dark faces. I've only seen dark faces. Although now I know in Ghana, I think Nigeria too, they have started to allow the Chinese to join the police forces. The police force. You know.
Oh Lord. I'm gonna ask this one more question. And,
but I would say this before you even ask that question. What are we preemptively doing?
That's what I'm going to next. What is the okay? We have a lot of people that want to go back to the continent. But there's a lot of infighting between the people in the continent and here in America. How do we get over that? And like, you've been there, I've never been there. So
what infighting are you referring to?
Well, it's like a bunch of cultural differences. How do we? Because
I ain't even answering this question. This ain't a real question. This is something you made up. This ain't a real question. I need to see some fighting. Who got stabbed? You said there's infighting. Then when I asked about the infighting, you said cultural differences. That's two different things. You and I have cultural differences. We ain't fighting. You still my brother.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to see some fighting. I need to see somebody getting down. What fighting?
So how do we make a shift to the continent? Or how do we make a shift here in America while everything is going down?
Get your ass a passport. Go to the continent. You could get tickets to Egypt. Egypt is like the cheapest flight you could get. Sometimes you get tickets for like $400, and you don't need a visa. Done. You on the continent. Was there more that I missed?
No. I'm just getting land or something like that. Like you've been there, so you'll know what to expect. You know, like it's hard to go somewhere and you don't know anybody. Like
That's the first time. That's the way I felt the first time I drove to Atlanta. I was expecting to see like dudes in white hoods riding around on pickup trucks, with crosses burning in people's yard. I didn't know that's what they told me. It was like, everybody's, man, don't go down there. I've been hearing don't go down there my whole life. Don't go down there. They still hanging down there. Don't go down there. It wasn't like that. It was Freaknik. I went down in free. It was 94, 90, 93, 94. Then I went there 3 years. The 95, I went down there. Man, wasn't no crosses, wasn't none of that, man. It was just nice hairstyles and Daisy Duke shorts. So, as far as transitioning, if you want to transition to the continent, go visit the continent. That's what I would say. But I think we talk about that too much, honestly. Like, because it's like the continent becomes heaven for us. I want to go to heaven one day, and it ain't heaven. What you got popping here? And if you don't have something popping here, what are you blaming it on? Because there's nothing that you could do on the continent that you can't do here. If you can't get it popping here, you ain't gonna get it popping. How you gonna go somewhere and people speak a language you don't even speak and think you're gonna go over there and get something popping? I think that's the problem with a lot of people from America. They think they go, that's how they fall for scams on the continent. People selling them fake land and stuff like that because they go over with their US dollar and it does stretch and go further. They go over there, buy some land. And now I don't know, that's why he's laughing. Then you go back to visit and there's a fence around your land and a sign. You're like, wait, I didn't put that there. Then you find out, no, that the person who sold you, they didn't say, well, what paperwork they wrote me this receipt. A receipt? This is real talk. I'm not even making this up. This is stuff that has actually happened. You know what I'm saying? So, matter of fact, now you know what happened on the beach to the right of the land, right? That plot there. Like when you're coming down the hill from Ocean Breeze, right to the right in front of what's the name? Adjua's property. Yeah. You know about what happened with that one? Okay, so that was I don't know if you know what's the name? Kofi. But there's a brother there, his brother bought that plot years ago, like 12 years ago. And he never, it's always just been overgrown right there. It's just like bush leading to the ocean. And it was a sister from America somewhere, I don't know where, she came and bought it. Right? Now, dude bought it. He lived in the village, but he moved out. I think he's in South Africa right now. But he's been in South Africa for years, but that's been his plot. But, local plot, little receipt. Of course, he didn't do the indentures or nothing. Right. Yeah. So sister came, bought the spot. I don't know who she bought it from because the selling situation there. So I don't know if it was like Uncle Ejiko did with his slick stuff, or I don't know who we got, but she got it for real. She got the indentures and everything. I don't know how she did it because it's supposed to be a freeze right there. So this was like last year, maybe like a year or two ago. So she start clearing. Dude shows up, well, his family showed up and was like, yo, that's my brother's plot. And he had no paperwork other than the local receipt. So he lost it, and in the longhouse, they was like, yo, we'll give you something else. But all the beachfront is gone. So it's like, what you gonna give me? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was on the beach, you know what I'm saying? So now you're gonna put me up back in the bush somewhere, you know what I'm saying? That's stuff, and that's something that happened to a local from the village. So that's what I'm saying, brother. Like, it's not paradise going over there, and there's things you got to learn on either side. But in my estimation, if you're here, like, what's respected on a continent is clan. When you move like a clan, You see, when you come in there and you're a single individual and you're like, yeah, I want to buy some land. Well, yeah, they're going to be like, oh, that's good, brother. Yeah, you've returned. They're playing you. They're laughing in your face. They're playing you because you are not their brother. They know you're not their brother. They know that. You know what I'm saying, right? But they'll play you because they know how deprived we are in America. They know how messed up we are and deprived, and we just want someone to hug us and give us an African name. You know, like, oh, you will be called so and so. Oh, you're gonna call. Oh, that's my new name. We're gonna, you know, they know that's how we are. You know, so the reality is when you go over, you got to move as a clan. So what does that mean? You got to organize over here first. Go over with 2 or 3 brothers. And when you go over, you tell them, yeah, we're all cousins or we're all brothers or sisters, brothers, whatever you want to say it. And then see how you can move. But just this dream that like a lot of people have, I'm going to go to Africa. For what? What are you going over there for? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's that?
You say that the World War III is happening in you're talking about the currency. How
man, you
and they
jumping
have
all over the place, man. You are all over the place.
I am. Because there's a lot of things that resonate with what you're saying already. You're talking about the currency, but we have this BRICS thing, right? Are you referring to that as the currency changing, or do you see it as something else?
Did you listen to the I told look up Ray Diallo. See, this is what I want us to start doing. He done turned his camera off. He gonna go look it up right now. We go to the library? Library closed, brother. It's 9:30 at night. He like,
Yeah.
He turned off his camera. He's probably writing a note. Yo, we gotta start going deeper, man. We gotta start going deeper. You know, when certain concepts are brought to us, don't just take my word for it. If I point you somewhere, that's a quest of study you got to go on. I know, listen, for many years, I worked with gang populations. I ran an alternative to incarceration program, right? I remember one time, like, they was like getting on me. It was like, yo, you be trying to talk to us like you better than us. You know, you be using words that we don't understand. And I was like, I do that on purpose. So you go look up the word. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a 15-year-old gangbanger. I don't talk like you. I'm not gonna speak like you so I could relate to you. I'm not trying to relate to you. You better relate to me. I'm on. I ain't got no big ass leg monitor on my ankle. I can move around. You see what I'm saying? You better come up here. So I have always, and I'm not trying to call y'all gangbangers and not say your mentality is like that, but I have carried that. Oh yeah, okay. But you know, it's the same thing here. There's sometimes where I throw out concepts, I'm throwing out crumbs. Those are hints. Those are breadcrumbs for you to follow. You know, I'm not going to break everything down. 1, because I don't feel like it. 2, I don't feel like it. So I'm gonna put it 2 times. I'm gonna put a double dose of I don't feel like it on it. But 3, because you don't grow by somebody spoon feeding you. That's mentality that we get from the parasitic elite. You see, anytime you look at YouTube videos, I mean, you could look at old videos of Dr. York doing that, Bobby Hemmett doing that. Somebody in the audience, what about this? Like, oh, you know what? That's the such and such. I ain't doing it. I ain't them cats. And people would be fascinated by their ability to answer anything. And I used to do a little bit of that. But then I also realized that creates robots. And if something happens to the person with all the information, the robots disperse with no organization. But in order to create leaders out of people, you gotta lead them by giving them crumbs. Keep them hungry. See, that's the Spartan mindset. You gotta be like a Spartan. You know, I stay hungry. You see, so if somebody's just spoon feed you, you're gonna get fat and lazy. Oh, that's this. Oh, you want me to repeat what I said? I said this. No, listen when I'm speaking. Write some goddamn notes. And if you didn't hear it, ask another, hey, can we study together? He was breaking this down. I found this. What did you find? See, that's how you grow. That's how I become obsolete. But if it's always, and I'm not just talking about you, brother Chris, I'm using your question as an example. But if I'm always just, anytime you ask me, because half the stuff y'all be asking me, y'all don't even need to ask me. Sometimes, and this, I know this sounds ill, but like, I got to tell you what a good question is. So sometimes y'all are asking me a question, you notice my answer be like a 10-minute answer. It's because your question was whack. And I'm turning it into something good. That's called alchemy. I'm taking lead and turning it into gold. You see? So you got to understand what should the sequence of my thought and question be? Sometimes you don't even know your own sequencing. What should I be focused on now? Well, the man started out talking about 13 families. Now, every time he does these Sabbath like study sessions, he says, you know what I've been thinking about this strong? And he tells us something. Am I dumb enough to believe that's what he was really thinking about this strong? Am I that dumb to believe that this man would actually tell me his thoughts? Or is that his nice way? It's like Sesame Street. Today's show was sponsored by the letter K. Letter K ain't got no money. You know what I'm saying? How would the letter K sponsor an episode? No, that joint was sponsored by the commercials. You know what I'm saying? Transformers and all the stuff that showed in between My Little Pony, but not by the letter K and the number 3. So when I'm like, yeah, I was thinking about this strong, I wasn't thinking about that. What I was thinking about, this is what they need right now. I gave you a movie list. And I gave you a company, a film company. I knew exactly what I was saying when I was saying it. I gave you A24. And I even gave you a classification. I said, and they're known as disruptors. Now, if I was just casually talking to you, I wouldn't have remembered everything that I said. The fact that I remembered everything I said, it was very deliberate. See, remember when I told y'all before, we the Illuminati? You thinking I'm having a casual conversation with you and I'm currently brainwashing you. What is brainwashing? I'm cleaning the dirt out your brain. But you thinking I'm just getting on here just talking casually. A24, the movie Civil War, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, ISS, the movie 10. I knew exactly what I was saying. I knew what I was going to say before I said it. Then I spoke about the 13 families. I purposely left out some of the families as I was talking. Why? Because you know, when I was counting, I only went to 10. I did that on purpose. I went to 10 families. But then I came back later and gave you the other 3. But you wouldn't know if you didn't tie those 3 that I gave you back to when I was talking about it earlier. See, I'm doing something to your brain as I'm talking. I'm making it work. Because somebody will go in the chat and say, oh, Chief, what was those 13 families again? And then what do you think I'm going to say? Look it up. You see, what was those movies you was talking about earlier? When I started talking about the movies, Aki Zach started writing. I saw he was writing notes. I was paying attention. He writing a list of movies. And you know he going to come back a strong or 2 from now. Yeah, man, it's like that movie Civil War. So check it out. You know, he going to start breaking it down.
That's a classic.
That's what's supposed to be. Yes, you know what I'm saying? That's going to be his new movie. You know, I do that on purpose. See, that's how we're supposed. That's what a teacher does, man. That's how you grab it. You bringing people along, but to spoon feed every little thing based on your thought sequence. And I promise you, your thought sequence is off. Like Brother Chris, you saying, okay, well, people want to transition the continent. So what? Who are they? Who are these people? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you doing right now? You know how many people go to the continent because they're losers in America and they saved up $5,000 and like, well, this will last me for like 2 years over there. And then in 2 years, they right back over here. Who are you now? Who are you today? You think everybody over there is like impressed by you a little bit? There's wealth over there. This cat's riding around over there in Range Rovers. You know what I'm saying? They know you ain't got no money when you ain't got no money. You know, they be dressing, walking around in villages with red dirt and dust all over designer clothes. You see? So, nah, man, we got to get a better thought sequence. So where should the men be right now? I just told you there's 13 families that have an agenda, and I even gave you a date, 1577. I gave you a name, Maya Rothschild. I gave you that name on purpose. I told you he had 5 sons. He had a genius plan. He did, fell out his chair. Look at him. He done fainted. Oh, Lord, information overload. He back. He all right. He back, y'all. So, I gave you 5 sons. They married their second cousins. Then I gave you another family. I said that was also done by the DuPont family. Then I threw in something extra for you, the Merovingians, who they changed their name to Collins. So when you see the Collins family, they're actually the Merovingians, and they believe they're from the line of David. See how much I already gave you? So now if you skip over all of that, then I already know you ain't tracking. You ain't picking up what I'm putting down. I'm giving you the agenda right now today. So even when Brother Chris, when you asked about Trump, it's like, you don't need to know about, I already gave you the agenda. I told you the movies to watch. Mm-hmm. Then I put you on and I told you, we're in World War III. Then I gave you the 13 families who are responsible for what's currently happening right now. Then for all you Bible thumpers, I said, we're about to open the 3rd seal. We've already opened up the first 2. From the book of Revelations, the 3rd seal is famine. The 2nd seal is war. You see what I was doing? But you thought I was probably just chit-chatting. Now, I ain't going to do this again. See how I broke down? So because I know our people are not a people of memory. Y'all ain't going to remember I said all this. So when I come back next strong, I'm going to be playing the same way. Like, hey, how y'all doing? It's Chief Yuya, what's up? Yeah, you know what I was thinking about? Y'all ain't going to remember because y'all be forgetting stuff. But the Wizard of Oz just pulled the curtain back for a second. And I'm just telling you what's behind the curtain. You think I'm casually talking to y'all about this stuff. I ain't casually talking to y'all. Then I gave you something. I gave you a hint. Last strong, what did I talk about for the insight? Anybody?
Meeting your gods.
Talking about the gods
and where the L is.
Gods in the tents.
Perfect. Right.
The Ugaritic text.
Yeah, right. The Ugaritic text. Exactly. The Ugaritic text found by a French explorer. Then I spoke about the mountains, Mount Sinai, Mount Zion, and the Ziggurat. In this session, I said even the symbols for paramount pictures, which is the stars around the mountain. Now I know most of y'all don't remember that symbol, but when I said it, that was for you to go, yeah, let me go look at this the symbol for paramount picture. Well, who the heck is paramount? And mount? Yeah, mount, mountain. How many stars are going around that mountain? See, this is what I would have done. Somebody saying your Paramount. Oh yeah, I like their movie. Then I'm gonna look. What kind of movies do they put out? How many stars around the mountain? What mountains are there supposed to be? Why are those mountains snow-capped? That's how you get deep. That's the deep formula. You gotta understand, just like when you're reading any ancient text, no words are wasted. So if you got somebody like me who submerges themselves in ancient text, then I learn to speak like the text. Everything I'm saying is a clue. So if I'm dropping clue, and then you come out of left field with something that's like, you lost. You don't know what we're talking about. You don't know. You didn't pick up on the clues. If you picked up on the clues, I'm giving you at least 2 strongs of work, if not more, maybe a month, for any man right now to know what they should be doing. What are the 13 families doing right now? Who put those movies out? What was the day and time? Why they all came out around the same time? What are those movies saying? because we have what's called predictive programming.
Mhm.
What is the movie Civil War? What is it saying to you? What is it predicting? What other movies did that company? I gave you the company for a reason. What other movies did they put out that I need to keep an eye on? You see. So I'm just gonna say that, man. You know, follow the crumbs. Oh, Sister Maria counted the stars. Uh-oh. Yeah.
I remember I put somebody on to the 14 keys, and they were reading through, and they're like, "Dang, there's I gotta use all those big words. Like he could have said it simpler than that." I'm like, "You supposed to look them words up. That's the whole point."
Exactly.
Like especially like when you understand some of your philosophy in terms of how our people, we need to grow past where we've been, you know, and a lot of the lazy scholarship and things of that nature have to go. So it's like, okay, I'm going to give you these keys, but you're going to work for the understanding of what I'm giving you here. So
Right.
it's like, I'm not just going to just lay it out all simple for you. It's like, nah, what does enshrouded mean? Like, what do these words mean? And now once you start to do that, because me and Aki Jaquez were kind of going over some of the keys. And one of the things that I told him was like, when I first read it, I would read it with a dictionary, and I would like look up the words and then try to reformulate the sentences in my own words, like using the definitions that I found for the words. And it helped to like make things make more sense to me because some of the vocabulary I didn't know. So it's like, you gotta take what's being given and then like go beyond what's just in front of you.
Yeah. Yo, you said it all right there. Go beyond what's in front of you. And that's where the lazy scholarship is. When I wrote the 14 Keys, that was one of the first books I wrote more, not just for me, but I relaxed myself. And what I mean by that, I said, I'm going to write a book in a way that I actually think and speak. So 14 Keys is the way my inner voice works. But when I'm speaking to people, because, you know, if you know how to connect to people, you have to speak to them in a way that they can actually understand you. So like when I wrote Grasping the Divine Power, I brought it way down. That book was way bigger. And I had super condensed that book and then used very simplistic language because I knew, hey, I got like 4 different languages in this book. I got Zulu, I got Yoruba, I got Akan. So I have to make sure that at least the English is simple because people are going to have enough time trying to memorize these other terms. But when I wrote the 14 Keys, I said, well, this is actually, when I'm talking to myself, this is what it sounds like. And I still dumbed it down a little bit. But what I was also showing, it wasn't a display of like intellect. It was to also show that some of us brothers out here got brains. We may present in a certain way so you can connect, but we actually have brains, and this may give you something to aspire to because it sets another standard.
Yeah.
You know, oh, this is what his inner voice sounds like. These are the words that he actually uses when he's, you know, speaking in a relaxed manner. Okay, so then maybe I can do that too. Maybe the pinnacle of where I've reached, because I've had brothers say that, yo, a lot of times my friends be saying that. Yo, sometimes, bro, I was talking to my friend recently, and I'm like, and he's a smart dude, man, Nation of Islam. And we were talking about he wants to move, and I was telling him, I was showing him a spot, and I was like, yo, they got a lot of nice amenities. And he was like, yo, sometimes you be saying words. I said amenities. What? Like, you don't know that word. Like, and we like, he's like 10 years older than me. I'm like, damn, like, where have you been that you have not read the word amenity somewhere? You know what I'm saying?
It got more than 3 syllables.
Right, exactly. He was like, yo, some of the words you be using, like, I didn't make this word up. Like, go on Zillow. It's on every ad. You know what I'm saying? But it's like also to let cats know, like, we got brains out here, man. You know, and the standard, you know, like I tell you, language creates the perceptual framework of your reality. So you're given certain language and told not to go beyond it, so you don't go beyond your perceptual reality. But when you have language for the things that you're going through, that you're experiencing, language then leads to emotional intelligence. There's nothing like being able to define a feeling or define an action on someone else's part. It takes you to a space where you can balance very quickly. But when you don't have the language, it builds up emotion inside of you. Because it's all these clouds and this pressure that's going out. So being able to define, even when we say things like, yo, I'm woke, what does that mean? Or like when Brother Chris was like, well, they said, who's they? Because all of that builds up more pressure clouds. You tell me parasitic elite, I want to know who. Give me a family name. You see? Well, he didn't say parasitic elite. I said parasitic elite. He said elite. Oh, the gods. And why do I say the gods? Well, because of the term, but because we don't put a face on them. If we say they, gods, that's who we talking about. We talking about spookism. That's what you're talking about. Anytime you point to something that is having an effect on your life, but you don't put a face on it, that's religious. It could be anything. Oh man, you know what they be putting in the food? Who's they? If you don't define they, you talking about what your God be putting in the food. All these entities you can't touch. So when you learn to use language in a proper way or in a more focused way, it actually focuses your power. Because remember, focus and intention is the basis of magic. It's the basis of your supernatural ability, is your focus and attention. But you can't focus anything that you have not put word to. You think? So yeah, man, I know people say, a lot of people talking about 14 keys. I have maybe one or two people who's like, I love the way you wrote this. I love it. Because I like books that you got to kind of think about as you're reading. Yeah, me too. Because some things are not so simple, and it's always the witches and the warlocks that try to simplify everything. That's your red flag. When you get taught something that's at a higher level, and they say, oh man, that's just this. Bobby Hemmett used to do that all the time. Oh man, that ain't nothing but Oshun and Shango and them. That ain't nothing but when you go to the Bohemian Grove, that's just the Bohemian, So he would always take these things and make them one thing that they really wasn't. They different things. Because basically your standard Jesus motif is Jesus is of course Lucifer, and Lucifer is of course Dionysus. And then Dionysus is, of course, the ancient Mithran Krishna myth, coming out of the Canaanite and Babylonian culture. Same shit. And he say it like that, and everybody be like, yeah. Now I ain't got to study nothing.
Just take 6 books off the table.
Right, exactly. Now I could just focus on my weed and sex. You know what I'm saying? So that's the problem right there. But if somebody says, nah, it's 15 different entities, you got to learn all of them. You know how long that's going to take? What else you doing that's better than that? You know what I'm saying? So our scholarship has to be at a level where we provoke inquiry if we're really teaching. I try to teach in a way to provoke inquiry, and some will go, and then some will say, man, he knows a lot, give me more information. I ain't giving you, I ain't doing it. I don't tell my sons everything. You think I'm gonna tell you everything? You know how many things I make my sons figure out? You know what I'm saying? I drop hints. Hey son, you might want to do that a little different. No, Bob, I'm trying to, okay, you got it. No, you got it. And they even know if I say that, Bob, what you not telling me? You'll figure it out. You'll find out. You need to find out because you got too much energy behind your wrong direction. So I need your mistake to humble you a little bit. I'll be here. I'll be here. Bob always here. I'll tell you everything you did wrong. You did wrong.
2 months later with a low voice, Bob, remember last month.
That's usually what it is. Yo, Bob, I need to talk to you. Yo, Bob, you was right. Of course I was right. I always say, I don't even know what we talking about yet. Of course I was right. What we talking about? I'm always right. What happened? Yeah, remember what you said about the remember how you didn't listen? Yeah, now you want to talk. Now you want to learn how to do it, huh? You know, so if I don't tell my own sons everything, I better figure it out. But you got a lot of breadcrumbs. If you see, that's a tenet of us being strong men, is learning how to listen. You know, and you got to learn that. Remember what I told you earlier, it's raining cold. It's raining cold. So if it's raining cold, everything that's around you is cold. Why are you not dissecting everything that's around you? I gave you hints in that in earlier segments when I used to say, yo, look at the room you're sitting in. You're probably looking out of rectangular windows. That's not right. You probably walk through a rectangular door. That ain't right. I bet you got 4 corners in your room. That ain't right. You're not supposed to have corners in your room. You're not. Why? When we look out of the world through a womb, at least your window should be oval or round. And a round window is stronger than a square window. A round doorway or an arch is actually structurally stronger than a rectangle. So why wouldn't they just make them all arches when they know it's stronger? See, I used to always talk about something, and I stopped talking about it. I said, all right, I said enough of that. Now that they should have picked up on that. Then I started jumping to the movies. Hey, y'all seen this movie? Y'all seen Death Note? Check out Death Note. Breaking down Death Note to you. Breaking down, I mean, I can go all the way. I did Matrix breakdowns. I did Inception breakdown. I said, oh, Inception. Remember they would always wake them up with music? And they had to go get that substance from the East Indian man. That substance was melanin, the sleep drug. I already gave you all the answers. Now, you might have just heard it, like, yo, it was a deep breakdown. I forgot everything I said. Music is the awakener. Melanin is the sleep drug. Then I told you melanin is some dangerous stuff because it enhances and amplifies. So you thinking melanin makes you special and better than everybody else. Melanin makes you more dangerous than everybody else because you're either going to be a super idiot or you're going to be a super righteous person. Melanin is like compound V. You know, it'll bring out the best or worst in you. You see? Now, I just dropped a hint because I said compound V. And then someone's going to be like, what the heck are you talking about?
Compound
the boys.
Yeah.
And then somebody who's thinking is going to say, he watches the boys? Why did he say compound V? Because he didn't have to say compound V. He could have just kept it at melanin. But he said compound V. Should I go watch the boys? Is there something in that I'm not getting? You see, everything that comes out, it's, you know how old heads, I don't know, every neighborhood has old heads that be talking to you and they be making fun of you while they talking to you. And you don't know because they be throwing little shots at you, you know. And if you really listening, you'll know, like, oh, they get. Hey, you could watch old videos of Brian Pumper before he went into jail. All them videos he was doing, this is back in the World Star era. And he'd be on the blocks and dudes be taking off his fake jewelry, be like, yo, let me wear this. And he was laughing at him. But he's like, yeah, you know, it's Brian Pumper, you know me, you know. Every word is for a reason, you know. All right, Mayu, we'll close this out. We ain't doing no marathon. I plan on doing 2 hours. We 53 minutes over. Oh, Mayu, we're gone. Okay. That's the close. That's my closer. He's like, here's my big finale. Yeah, you know. But yeah, man, you gotta follow the clues, man. All the information is here, and people who rule the world don't need to be spoon-fed. See, I'm gonna tell you one important thing that you need to know, and you need to instill in your children. The people who rule the world, they have thick skin. You never, like, I have been in situations where I've gone against police officers and I'm in their face like, yo, you devil. I'm not going to say all the things I used to say, but you devil, you this, you that, you that. They would never react, ever. They just be like, you know what I'm saying? Yo, if you don't have that badge, yo, where's your after when you get off work, I'm going to do it. You see, you call me one word and I'm ready to die. I'm ready to crash out over that one word. That's why we don't be making it. See, a lot of us, as far as men, we have to learn to surround ourselves, not in code, but surround ourselves in criticism. See, I grew up in the bowels of criticism. Older brothers, father, uncles, grandfathers. I was surrounded by men who was telling me everything I did didn't make no damn sense. You know, I didn't even ride my bike right. Like nothing you do is right. You know what I'm saying? And then when I do music, it was just you off beat. Tune up your guitar. Your slaps on your drums is sloppy. You playing more with your right hand than you're supposed to play with, you know, everything. Like, damn, I can't even have fun. You know, everything is wrong. But I wasn't one of them boys that came crying, was like, why you don't never say nothing good about it? No. You see? So now when I go out into the world and I'm critiqued, okay, what is it? Let's go. What you got to say? All right, I need to improve over here. Okay, cool. I'm not one of those guys that, well, it's not what you said, it's the way you said it. You know what I'm saying? You could have said it more gently, you know? No, because I grew up with my father, like, look at this idiot over here. Literally say things like that. Look at this one here, you know? Or like one time he told me, and he driving, how you tell me? He was like, yeah, you know, man, I'm really proud of the way you came out. He said that to me. He was like, because at one point I really thought I had a dud. Like, bro, you don't say that to your son. He said, I thought you were a dud. You know, and I'm just sitting there, like we're in the car, and I'm like, yeah, a dud. Okay, sure. You know, but I grew up with that. You see what I'm saying? Now, the parasitic elite who rule this world, they grow up in criticism, so they're constantly growing. They're constantly evolving the agenda because they can be critiqued. They can grow from that critique. You think about the people who you've seen even around Anu, who were in and jumped out. Most of the time, these guys leave because of what? Because they were critiqued and they got their feelings hurt and they ran away. That's the number one sign. You didn't grow up with your daddy. Your daddy wasn't around. Because you can't take criticism. Is that Charlie? My eyes are, yeah. I think that's you, Charlie. But yeah, man. Charlie, it's on Facebook. Charlie's an old friend. If that's him, I think that's him. Can't see the screen that great. What's up, Charlie? If that is you. But yeah, so that's the thing, man. So it is you. Hey, what's up? Oh man, it's so beautiful to see you. Yeah, I've known Charlie since I was about 13, something like that. Yeah, you know. But yeah, man, that's a sign. So to get past, to really evolve past where we are, man, we got to thicken up our skin a little bit, be able to take that criticism and understand that when you grow up in certain environments, the creator's gonna, you know, we always want this soft rain, but the creator brings hell, earthquakes, snow. It's all water though. It's all water. It's all just different forms of water. And based on our level of hard-headedness, it's got to come in different forms for it to get through to us, you know? All right, Mayuba, you're going to close this out.
Peace, everybody.
Peace.
Shalom, brother.
Yeah, shalom.
I was following, you know.
I was following the whole talk. I was just I was in work and I couldn't get away from situations, but it was beautiful build thus far, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things from the last come on,
Mayuba, man, you messing up the energy, man. Keep it. Remember when you was wrestling on the ground with Zach? We need that, Mayuba. Bring that, Mayuba. This is the Mayuba who was sitting cross-legged on a log, you know, meditating with a guitar to say, we don't want this one.
You don't want the two notes?
No, we don't want 2-note Mayuba. We want Mayuba was singing. Well, he was 2-note, but he was singing a song. Bring it up, man. Come on, man.
Yes. With what I've been following from the last build, right?
Yeah.
And with the Anu lineage that we're following, and we're here with coming from planet Nibiru, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
well, who's coming from planet Nibiru?
Our creators.
No. Nibiru is more of a Nibiru is, remember, Nibiru is short for Neb Haru. Haru means light or heaven or above. Neb means master. So Neb Haru, which is where you get Nebahet, which later was Neptes, is the master of the body or the master of the light. So Nibiru is a planetary, it's not the origins. You can look at Nibiru as like a traveling, a concept, or the traveling concept. Is there really a red planet that NASA has named as Nibiru and they've seen it? Yeah, they have seen it, but it's not the origins. Never look at your creator's origins as being so physical. That will throw you off.
Yeah. And what I was trying to remanifest in my mind is the constructs of Anu being the most high,
mm-hmm.
but of our solar system, right? And that how I was constructing was Anu being the divine sky of our solar system, but other solar systems and other galaxies would have their own elves. Correct?
I wouldn't see it as such.
No.
A solar system is a very small thing. We have the sun. And the sun is the center. We're told that we're in a heliocentric solar system. So the sun sits at the center. So that would be symbolic of the Most High of this particular solar system. So you're speaking about galaxies. That goes beyond.
Yeah.
That's something different.
Okay. And
hey man, let me tell y'all something about Charlie. So the first time I just remember something, if Charlie, you still there. The first time I ever did a revival was Charlie drove me there. I don't remember where we were. He don't remember either. We went somewhere up in past Westchester. But I remember that night because this is when I learned I was a teacher and not a preacher. And I was teaching, and Charlie came behind me. Charlie he's a musician. And he's an elder now. I think you're an elder now, right, Charlie? I saw something that said Elder Clayton somewhere. But he came behind me like I was doing what Mayu was doing right now. I was all teaching like this, and then he came behind me, and then he taught. Like, no, he preached, because he could sing too. He's a singer. He's singing. He's everything. No, but he sings and he does a bunch of other stuff. But he came behind me, and that was the first time in that environment, in the church environment, that I realized that, like, I'm not gonna be able to stay here because I'm not gonna do both. I'm a teacher, but I'm not. I don't even have the voice to hack. Like I don't have. What I'm saying? Y'all laughing, but that's what it is. And I was like, man, I don't really have that. Like, I understand it, I get it, but I don't. It's not me naturally. Naturally, I want to speak clearly so you understand everything that I said, and then you walk home with something. And that was the first time I experienced that. But I remember coming off the podium. This was a long time ago. If Charlie, you still there, I think that's when you had the gray Honda Accord. That was like an 89 Honda Accord, 88, 89 Honda Accord you had back then. That was a nice car back then. That's when they first made the Honda Accords big. And I came off the podium, and there was these two old mothers, and they came up to me and they was like, son, I ain't never heard teaching like that before. It was like, that was beautiful. You keep doing what you're doing. That was, oh my goodness. And that opened my eyes to something really deep that later still carries me to this day, because I'm like, man, how is it these old ladies really was like, they were getting into and I think, I don't remember what I talked about. It was so long ago, but I feel like in there somewhere I was talking about the angles of the cross and the 45-degree angles, and I was breaking that down. But I'm like in a fire baptized church, they want to roll underneath the pews and be flipping and doing all that. And I got a feeling they want to do all that. You know what I mean? Charlie, he can hold that down. He can bring that spirit, but I didn't have that. But I was like, I would think they would have wanted that, but they were the main ones. Like, that was beautiful, you know? And I realized, like, yeah, because they ready for something. They ready for different food. They've been eating that same food, and like, we got to have both. You know, it's like what Khalid Muhammad used to say. Like, Khalid Muhammad, he was the one who coined that term edutainment. He was like, I entertain, I come with a lot of energy, but I also educate at the same time, because I recognize that my people are people of great intellect, but our people are also people of great spirit. So you have to be able to provide, but some people could do both. You know, like T.D. Jakes, the person could do both. Khalid Muhammad can do both. Minister Farrakhan can do both. Me, I can only do the intellect part. The spirit part, I'm not as strong on. But I just thought about that. Go ahead, Mayu, but what you talking about, man?
A story came back to me that I went
Here we
to
go.
the retreat.
The
From the
energy.
retreat, right? So the first night I was at the retreat, that was my biggest teaching of the retreat, right? Because I set up my tent way back. Only Jason really knew where I was, because he went with the kids and they
I
walked
kept
around.
asking where you were, no one knew.
And so the first day I set up my tent, but I set up my tent somewhere very specific, right? Because while I was walking out in the backwoods, I saw a deer grazing. When I saw a deer grazing, I could identify it was a nice patch of grass. Nice.
Right.
There were rocks everywhere. There were trees. So finally, right, I get to the spot. I identified. I clear some logs. I set up my tent. Now, on my way back, I identified the trees and the rocks to make sure I knew where I actually was, so I wouldn't get lost on my way back, because I knew we would be coming back at night.
Right.
Now, my mistake that I made is that I only looked at the path one way. I didn't look at the path on the way back. So from where I am at the tent and I'm walking back to the campground, I'm following all these signs. I'm like, okay, great. But I never took the chance to look backwards and look at what it actually looks like going towards the tent. So nighttime arrives. After Zach drives the car, I drop off my bag. Now I get my suitcase, which was where your tent was. And it's heavy. It's like 30 pounds. And now I decide to go on the trek. But for me, I enjoy walking through the woods at night with no light. So I always walk in the dark. So I do my path and I start walking. And then, I'm saying the spirits will guide me right to where the tent is. So when I think I am where I should be, I realize I'm not there. I look around me. I realize I'm lost. I was walking for maybe 20 minutes in the dark before deciding to put my headlamp on. When I put my headlamp on, I realized I was very lost because I had no clue where I was. So finally, I'm like, all right, let me just go back to where I see like a mountain hilltop, because that's where I came from. So as I'm going back, I see the back of a tent, and I think it was either El Corral or Auntie Zach's tent. And I kind of flashed the tent a couple of times, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me not do that. So I knew where I was, so I went back to the path and where it happened. But on my way back, I let go. I said I'm going to go sleep with Mr. Jason. I said, Jason is sleeping by the fire. I'm going to be his fire brother tonight. We're going to sleep by the fire. But it always happens in life when you give up hope on everything, and then that's when you get the deliverance, right? So okay. as I'm walking back to the campground road, I see a little thing glimmer in the dark because my headlamp was flickering something. So I was like, is that my tent? So I go like this again, and it flickers it. And I was like, just when I gave up all hope, that's when I found the tent. So I made my direction, but this time it was at night. So I made sure I looked at everything, the rocks, the trees. I identified everything. made my way there, and by now I'm drenched in sweat because I've been walking for like 45 minutes trying to find a tent with a big heavy suitcase. So to me, my teaching of that was, and every night since then, I found my tent without my headlamp. I just walk at night and I got to my tent. But it reminded me that even if you know a certain path you're going perfectly, if you don't take the time to pause, look backwards, and see both directions, and because a tree that looks at you from the front, behind the tree could look completely different. And it's like that in life. You go through life a certain direction, but in the back way, the world looks differently. And that reminded me to be a bit more patient and attentive to details when navigating, you know?
I understand. Yeah. You know, being able, not always running, charging forward into something, but kind of taking your time, walking slow, and looking at the context of things as you're moving. You know, and that could be going forward by looking back. That's part of that, is like, what are the valuable things that I do need to bring with me as I'm going forward? You know, what are the valuable things that I need to note as I'm going forward? And also it helps you to define success, because you don't really know if you're making successive steps towards any goal if you don't know how far you ventured towards that goal. You might just be walking and be like, I walked 5 minutes, and I realized you walked 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm discounting 15 minutes of success here, you know, because I haven't been self-aware. I get it. I think hearing that is probably how people felt when they first read the 14 Keys. You know what I mean?
And then
that
was making me think of when
Akizak.
you oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, bro.
No, I was just saying Akizak got traumatized, and he had a blade in his hand that night. He was just making sure he was ready if something happened.
What happened is that? I didn't hear about this story.
Man, let me tell you. Okay. So, so we all breaking for the night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now my tent is besides that. You know, we ruled out a little cliff right there, and I go up. I'm ready to go to bed and whatnot. I go up. I'm hearing all these sounds. I got my flashlight everywhere, and then I see behind this tent with a big knife, and I'm like, what? Well, I can't say what I said to Zach, but I was like, Zach, what did you do? You know, he just.
Why, you heard an animal or something?
It was my Yuba, but we didn't know at the time. It was like, you know, the dang old bear. You know, I'm flashing my light everywhere. You know, like this goes out, and all of a sudden he said, "That's my Yuba the whole time." What? He just walking around. I'm like, we didn't know you was lost.
Yeah, I heard about my Uber walking around because I wasn't there the first night, but you know, I'm constantly texting, "Hey, everybody okay? Everybody okay?" And somebody was like, "Yeah, my Uber's just walking around." It's like 3 a.m. My Uber's just walking around in the woods. I was like, "Well, he's all right." I whatever it was, I didn't even ask. I was like, that he seemed like he'd be walking around 3 a.m. He all right. Don't leave him alone. He's okay. Who, I don't know if this is Kelvante or who we talking to? Lord Vader, is that you? Like in Darth Vader's chamber.
Peace, everybody. This
it's Derek. Okay, I know about
this.
Nothing. Okay.
Peace.
No, man. I ain't got much to say. I'm just on here to say, man. I already put it in the chat, but you know, if y'all here watching, y'all want to know what it's like to really be part of Anu, go to AnuLifeGlobal.org. You know, if you men, there's a link for the men. If you women, there's a link for the women. You know, if you're thinking about joining, don't think, just do it. You know, because I was on the fence for years, you know, following Chief teachings when he was, you know, started talking about Orisha. And, you know, one day last year, I finally decided to click that link. You know, I filled out the application. I was accepted. And, man, look, there's no looking back. You know, if I have one regret is that I didn't join sooner. So now's your time. Now's your time, you know. And that's really all I got.
No, man, that's real, brother. Thanks for bringing it to that, man. Returning us to that. Yeah, I saw when you put that in the chat, you know, but it's so funny when you just said, yeah, I was following for years. The first thing that did go through my head was like, man, he should have been signed up. And then you said it like, I regret I didn't do it sooner. Yeah, man. So thank you, definitely. And that's what it's about. It's about building community for the purposes of bringing out the best in what we are designed to be. I don't even know why Raheem is so active in the chat and just skipped out on movie night that he was supposed to be running and never put nothing in the chat like, hey, y'all, sorry about that. I was busy that, you know what I mean? But he active tonight. You see this? But anyway, yeah, man, I definitely give thanks for that, Abba Derek, for definitely like bringing it back to where we at, man. It's about, nation building starts with self-development, and you can't get past, what happened was you can't get past the self-development piece, and that's the hardest part of the whole thing, the self-development. But, you can't even start thinking about governing or interacting with others until you get to that place where you've slayed your dragons, and like we talk about the harsh criticism. If it's harsh, I don't know if it's harsh, but we just talk about the criticism that's necessary for us to be that. Like I say, character grows within community. You can't grow your character through people giving you instructions and you not being accountable to what's said. And you also can't grow your character in isolation. It doesn't work that way. You grow your character around others. And sometimes they may say things you may not like. And, I hear things from Anu every day that I don't like. And sometimes the listening isn't how things happen. Someone asked me recently, it was like, a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that really follow your information and listen to it. And they were like, why don't they join? And I said, probably because something I'm doing wrong. Like that's a critique that I have for myself. Like, yeah, it's probably, an angle that I'm coming from that is not, encouraging to be a part of a community, or it could be, maybe something that I have within the community that's making people say, I like it, but I don't like that. So that's a part of me listening and me taking in criticism. It's not just what's said, but it's also I'm looking at the fruit of the labor as well and saying, oh, it could have been like this, or it could have been like that. We could have worked it this way, we could have worked it that way, or whatever. So being able to take that in is important. Like I said, I grew up among that. I just shared a story with you with Charlie, and that, I mean, I had to have been like 90. Man, I don't even know, maybe 92, 93, something like that. Well, yeah, around 92, 93. That long ago, I've been on podiums teaching and speaking. And I remember that night, I'm dropping it. And they're just like, I'm like, man, I'm losing them. And then Charlie had to come up. He came up and snatched the night and was like, and headache. Now they all. I'm like, oh, I ain't doing that. So y'all want to call me back next year? That's fine. But but that's criticism. That's learning and growing and getting that helped me to even get a better sense of self. And realize like, I ain't that. I don't even, I don't have that. I have this. So let me work on this. Because I know I can teach. I can do that. Let me, this is my lane. Let me stay in my lane. Let me work on my lane. So he's a part of my community. Being a part of a community and someone to point those things out to you or to put you on to things, or like when those old ladies, well, those elders, or back then we called them saints, came up to me, was like, son, that was amazing. That was community feedback. But I'm like, it was only the old ladies. The other ones, what they was going over to Charlie, like that was me. I'm like, that's weird. You would think the old ladies want to be hyped up and the other ones want to be taught. But that was something that I learned right then. Like, no, them old ladies, they've been hearing the same message for 50 years. They're open to something else. Okay, cool. And these are the ways that you learn, man. So community is so critical in that way. And I've been a part of many communities, but yeah. So we're going to close out with that. This ain't going to be no 5-hour marathon, man, because, y'all know we start at the God hour. So I don't know why y'all be calling in 3 hours after we start. You know what I'm saying? But not you, Albert Derek, because you was here, because you was already in the chat. You know what I'm saying? But some of y'all wait, we like let it warm up for an hour or two, then I'll come in. You know? Y'all gonna stop playing me. But yeah, man. So yeah, we're gonna head out, and of course, we have the Insight tomorrow at noon. And we're going to be covering some more things, but willfully, this was a session that I hope y'all, because I know y'all forgetting it already. He broke down. He said that it's a formula and how he be doing. I know he's already starting to slip out, but I hope that you go back and listen to some of the names that I said, and listen to some of the concepts that were given, especially the ones you don't know. You have an opportunity to watch every movie. I should throw Dune 2 in there. I meant to say Dune 2 earlier. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Dune 2. And Dune 2 you got to watch last. Because Dune 2 was such a good movie that it's going to make all the other ones look like trash. Because they did such a perfect job. They did an amazing job with executing that movie, man. My goodness. That you watch that and watch Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, you're going to be like, this is garbage. Oh, you mean y'all just watched Dune 2 yesterday? Okay, cool. I'm assuming y'all,
That was on Greyhound.
Okay. So she was out of flight. Man, don't tell me she put you in economy and she was in first class. Don't let her order the tickets no more. That's the last time you ordering the tickets. But yeah, man. Yeah, you're right. Dune 2 just make you forget Dune 1 because they really get into the politics, like the religion. Dune 2 was so deep when they really showed this is how we create religions, and and it's in the books too. I mean, I read that in the books, but in the movies it just hit different. Because in the books they don't stress it as much. Like they stress it, but there's so much going on in the books. It's not like a main point. But in the movie, they made that a main point, which made it even more interesting, But yeah, man. So yeah, I would just say definitely go back, before you fall asleep tonight. That's so now rubbing his eyes. Yeah. before you fall asleep, and just pay attention to the names that I gave. Pay attention to the movies that I gave, the movie companies. We're in a very interesting time right now, and we got to do more than even just stack gold. We're even beyond just the stacking gold era. You got to know what an exchange of currency looks like. I gave you the name Ray Diallo. These are, you got a lot that you can work with. All right, so I'll be back for the Sabbath at noon. All right, so make sure that you show up and are there for that and ready to learn and ready to get on to some more stuff. And I'm really interested. I'm gonna say this before we head out, man. I'm really interested in some more tangible fruit. From not just from you brothers, but from you women as well. We're in a season now of show and prove, and it's a good time, and we have a good opportunity to start showing. Beyond, I don't really care about what you say. I really don't, to be honest with you. Because anybody could say anything. Like it's easy now to get. Like if you go to Chat GPT, you can get any script you want. How do I say this? How do I write this? How do I say thank you for the brownies? It'll tell you anything you want to say. So, but what it can't do is do the work for you. So really seeing that tangible work, man, is a beautiful thing that I'm looking forward to. At the last retreat, we had a conversation around chapters in different people's areas. So we could bring a more physical experience. We had chapters before years ago. We had a couple of chapters that did well, but then we just kind of like maybe a little bit before COVID, we started changing the model up, and then things has changed a lot, and we just didn't get back to the chapter model. But for those of you tuned in and listening, keep an ear and an eye out for that, because it may be a chapter close by you soon, and that gives you an opportunity to show and prove. Let's see your muscles. Let's see your muscles. Let's see the work you're putting in, and most importantly, can you create knowledge seeds? You know, and knowledge seeds are those folks that you snatch up and you wake up. Wake up. You know, and you keep them up. They don't fall back asleep. You know, like the movie. You know, They Live, when they had that fight, and at the end he finally put the glasses on. He was like, oh, you know, like. But it gives you an opportunity to, like, can I create a knowledge seed? And sometimes your best critique will come from that. You know. Damn, like why my cousins not, they just don't listen. My sister and my brother, they not interested. Why? It's probably you. You know, so it gives you an opportunity to see, like, what about me is incredible? Why credible? Why don't I have the authority that I think I should have? You know, so forth and so on. You know, so the best way to get into something is to teach it. Put your hands in it, you know, and then you can see up close and personal if it's working for you. All right. So we'll be returning at noon. Make sure you tune in for that, everyone. And thank you, brothers and you sisters, for coming through. I didn't go through every comment in the thing, but I'm sure that you were all talking among yourself. I think we hit some of the comments up. And yeah, man. And we'll see you at noon tomorrow. All right. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
All right.
Keep on. They called me Mandingo, so they can work me hard. But yesterday, my people, they called me king. Master, our king. They say you don't need Endermanto. We gave you God. They gave me God. I laugh, so I don't cry. Ha 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 ha. Did you know royalty? They don't know. I be Manta. I be Manta. I be Manta. Call me Mandingo. Call me Mandingo. Call me Mandingo. Call me Mandingo. And I'll be Manta. I'll be Manta. I'll be Manta. I'll be Manta. Manta the king. Manta your king.